Hello and welcome everybody to Flicker Effect, episode number 208. We are recording this on Sunday, March 19th, 2017. I'm David Lotz. Joining me this week is Bobby Jackson.
Hello.
Yasha Wilson.
Hey.
And Michelle Curry.
Hi, everybody.
How's it going, guys?
Good.
So, for the next hour or two, the four of us will be talking about the world of film, television, and pop culture, and I guess pretty much whatever we feel like bringing up. Just a reminder for those listening, you can find this podcast on iTunes, Google Play Music, or the iHeartRadio app. Just search for Flicker Effect. That's 2 words. You can also find us on YouTube. Our website for that is youtube.com/Flicker Effect. All right. Well,
Cool.
We're going to be reviewing Beauty and the Beast this week. That'll be our featured review. We'll get to that a little later. First, we usually like to start off by talking about what we've been watching lately. Bobby, what you been watching?
Yes. Well, let's see. I watched an episode of Star Wars Rebels that I kind of wanted to talk about. It's a show I've been watching since it started. And they've been having some really good seasons. I think this is the 3rd season, and they've been picked up for 4th season, I want to say. So that's kind of the good news. And one of the other things was that it's been getting closer and closer towards tying in to where essentially Rogue One is. And so it's probably has, if not next season being the last season, then maybe one more season after that. But I could easily see where next season would be the last, that it would be telling its complete story. But this week's episode was particularly important because it was an episode in which Darth Maul faced off against Obi-Wan Kenobi. And what people know of canon, there's no Darth Maul later on in any of the series, but if you've watched the Clone Wars or have heard of any of the other canon books, you know that Darth Maul did survive after the original, well, not the original, but episode 1, Phantom Menace. And so he's had battles with Obi-Wan in the past, but at this point in Rebels history, or Rebels point in the show, Obi-Wan has already secluded himself off to Tatooine, and so he hasn't been seen or heard from since after the Clone Wars, and so no one really knows of his existence per se. And so it's an interesting episode when you see these two meet after so long, and Obi-Wan is similar to what you see him look like when you see him in episode 4. So it's interesting to just see that character again after so long, and seeing him in a way that is familiar, and making him the Obi-Wan Alec Guinness kind of character that that everyone knows. So it was a really good episode, and I would suggest, even if you don't watch the show, just check out that episode, and maybe it'll kind of get you into the show. But it was really good, and I enjoyed it.
And that was a new episode this week?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Uh-huh.
Awesome.
And the other thing I started watching, I haven't finished, but I did start it, was the Netflix's newest Marvel series, Iron Fist. And as I don't know if you mentioned it on the show last week, but David, the critics had not been liking the series. They were pretty much saying it was the disappointment so far, the bump in the road for the Netflix series. And I've seen only 5 episodes, so I can't say how the season shakes out overall. But I can say that I do see what the critics are talking about. And I think the biggest fault of this series, in my opinion, is that at its heart, it's a Kung Fu series. And there's hardly any Kung Fu in the series so far. It's like, what you get is this sort of a story of a guy who's been stranded and presumed dead for a lot of his life, and he comes back, and he's this fish out of water, and he's trying to reclaim his family's name, and his family is an important name because they own this company that's worth billions of dollars. And so that seems to be the main focus is him trying to reclaim his name. And eventually it's like you feel like it's prolonging this story in a way that it just doesn't have to be, just for the sake of trying to stretch out for the season of 13 episodes. And it makes it a little dull at times because you're not interested in that. You're wanting to see the fighting. And when by the time you get to the fighting, I don't know if I think in the 5 episodes I've watched, I think I've seen Finn Jones fighting maybe 3 fights. I don't know. But then there's this other character. Her name is Colleen Wing, and she seems like she's fought a whole lot more than Finn Jones has as Iron Fist, as more so than I would say you would think that that would be the case. And so it's kind of just not like as compelling as the other Netflix series, and it just doesn't lend itself to what you imagine would be a tone that would sort of fit in, because all the other series had their own specific tone and feel, and so this one it just doesn't have that sort of connection to anything that really makes you feel that it's unique and feels important enough to sort of stand out from the group. So it's interesting knowing that I'm only 5 episodes in, and I'm still watching it because it's not bad. It's not. I wouldn't say it's terrible or bad in any sense. It's just not up to the same level as the other series have been so far, and that's the disappointing part of it, is because there's potential there. There's aspects in it that you could see could be good if it was fleshed out more, but if what you're getting is not, it seems like a half effort. And even when there's some fighting, especially, I don't know if Yasha may have noticed it once he gets a chance to talk about it, but it seems like the choreography is very slow. Like the moves seem very telegraphed, and it just doesn't seem as fluid as even Daredevil's fight scenes were. It just feels very forced and I don't know, by the numbers in a way. So yeah, I mean, I'm gonna stick with it because I do want to see where it all goes and see how the whole season shakes out. But I would say the good thing about it is if they decided to pull in and do a season 2 of Iron Fist, they would have to have learned from any of the mistakes and any of the critical response that they're getting now and make some adjustments. And I don't know if that means that they would have to get a different showrunner or bring in a better choreographer, bring in a better stunt double for Finn Jones or whatever the case may be. But they're going to have to make some adjustments. And I think that's kind of going to be the message that they get going forward. But overall, it's okay. It's not bad, but I was expecting better.
So yeah, Yasha, you've also been watching it. I think you're a little farther along than Bobby, right?
I was basically, what I wanted to say was I just wanted to kind of echo and add a few things in regards to what Bobby was saying, and he basically was used a word that I was kind of waiting for him to use, and that's how I felt, is forced. It's like they try and force this story of what we care about and how we should care about Danny Rand and, him trying to figure out his past and whatnot, or being forced back into this company. Not to mention the fluidity of the shows, the movie, the continuity of the show. It just doesn't really match. It's not a flow. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, you keep waiting. Pardon me. One of the fun things about these Marvel shows is, like, you kind of want to wait to see what they're going to do or how they're going to proceed, or, get to see them, fight and do their thing. Like, that's what we all pine to see. Like, whether it's Daredevil, whether it's the Punisher, whether it's Jessica Jones, you kind of want to see their ability or see their power. And we don't really get a lot of that very early on. We kind of see it here and there, but it's like Bobby said, it's just kind of slow. It's kind of forced. You're waiting for it. And then you see this other person in the show, Colleen Wing, you get to see her fight a little bit more. Whereas then, you kind of want to see Finn Jones really go after it and get to it. I was texting with Bobby earlier this week in regards to what he thought of the show, or what I was thinking of the show, and something's just missing. Like the fight scenes, they just don't. This is supposed to be a kung fu show, and when the trailers that they released, very kung fu heavy, like you're expecting to really get out of it. Now, admittedly, yes, I am further into the season. I'm on episode 9, so I'm rounding the final bend here, and you do get to see him fight a lot more, and it's a little bit more fun. But the fighting scenes are very, like you always said, they're kind of slow. It feels like they're very rehearsed. I don't know if they need to speed it up, but I or work on their editing for the fight scenes, because the fight scenes that Daredevil has and the Punisher has, where they are just these long, epic cuts, are so much more exciting than watching some of what Finn Jones does as Iron Fist. And then there's small things that you'll notice, like in one scene, he's walking around with his backpack, and then he doesn't have his backpack, and then he comes back, and it's like he has his backpack again. It's like, okay, well, if this guy has nothing and he just shows up to this city, where the hell is he stashing his stuff? And it's just like he's just kind of like living as a homeless person for the first episode or two. It doesn't make sense. He has this bothered me. I don't know how much it bothered you, Bobby, but it's like he has an iPod that's fully charged and he's been listening to on this entire trip. And it's like, dude, you've been living in like ancient China for like this past 15 years. How the hell has this thing been charged? Did you know? Did that bother you, Bobby? Bobby, did that like bother you, or did you notice that?
Until you brought up the point. No, I didn't think about it. It doesn't when you say it.
Yeah, but it's like, I mean, it's seriously like little things like that, like, you know, for people that really pay attention to these things, and it's like, I don't know, the critics, you know, they're looking for things to kind of rip this show apart, I feel like, or any show for that matter. They're just looking for a reason or a rhyme or reason as to like how to, you know, talk bad, or, you know, looking for the holes. And you don't have to look very hard when it comes to the first 5 to 6 episodes of this season, this show. To me, the acting isn't even all that great. And I hate to say that, because I don't necessarily like to talk bad about the talent so much, because I know that they put themselves through a lot of grueling episodes and a lot of grueling emotions and whatnot. But these two siblings that he has in this show, Ward Meacham and Joy Meacham, like, I mean, Joy Meacham is a much better actress plays as a much better character than the Ward Meacham character. He just looks like he's reciting his lines, and they have no chemistry whatsoever when you're watching it. It just kind of looks forced, and it looks like they're reciting lines. I also think the Colleen Wing character, while she is an amazing martial artist and or acrobat, however she is convincing as a fighter. I don't think she's necessarily the best actress, which is sad, because as far as from my perspective and how my opinion, like, they've always drafted and got some of the best talent that really goes after it and really puts it forth when it comes to these shows. Like, you believe these characters. And I think one of the things is that you don't necessarily believe these characters when you're watching Iron Fist. I just have such a hard time with it. That being said, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, I probably rate this like a 5 or a 6, like in regards to like how I feel about the show compared to like some of the others where I would rank them so much higher. I'm enjoying it now because they've gotten really more into that aspect of some of the main bad guys of this series, which is the Hand, and you know, we're talking more about this, and you can see how it's kind of starting to connect their whole world, because they're mentioning more of these other people like Daredevil and pardon me, I think they even mentioned Luke Cage at this point in the show. But you can see them starting to wrap it around and kind of get these things connected. I personally am waiting for somebody else to kind of pop in or just like stroll by or have like this sort of pseudo cameo, not necessarily a big fighting cameo, but something to introduce the next phase, which is the Defenders. And I mean, because that's kind of what Marvel does. They like to link their worlds. But as far as I can tell, it's like it hasn't happened yet, aside from just bringing up names from people. I like the show, and I'm obviously going to finish it. Is it my favorite Netflix series? It's probably at the bottom of the list when it comes to everything. When it comes to all the Netflix shows that I've watched, that's Daredevil seasons 1 and 2, Jessica Jones and Luke Cage. It's not very strong. I just don't think that it's very strong. I think it could be better. It's getting good, and I'm fully engaged, but I think they could have done a better job, especially with some of the continuity and the fight scenes and the choreographing for the fight scenes, especially since he's supposed to be this martial arts guru. It's entertaining and it's decent, but it's not nearly as strong as some of the other shows, and the tone from some of the other shows. It just is, something's missing, and that's my opinion.
It's a little disheartening.
I know, it's frustrating. I mean, especially if you guys haven't even started it, I know it's frustrating to hear that because it doesn't encourage the idea of like, oh, I need to watch this. But I mean, at the same time, I would definitely recommend, like, if you've seen the other Netflix shows that Marvel's done, you have to watch this one. You just kind of have to be a part of it. Like, you gotta give it a shot. Like, it's maybe one episode a night, but whereas in, like, to me, like when I watched Luke Cage or when I watched Jessica Jones, like after the first episode of Jessica Jones, I was in, like, full speed ahead. I was like, holy shit. And that's not to say that the first episode wasn't slow, because I thought the first episode was really slow until like the last 10 minutes of that episode. And then I was like, holy shit. And I was all in. I just had to watch the rest of the show. I have not had that holy shit, I have to watch the rest of this season moment with Iron Fist. There's been moments where I'm just like, oh, that's cool. I can't wait to see what happens next, or I'm looking forward to see what happens next. But with Jessica Jones or Luke Cage, where it's just like, you have these moments where it's just like, whoa, what is happening? Or even Daredevil season 2, like, they go full force and you're expecting, you know, they bring in the Punisher and you're expecting the Punisher and, you know, to be like maybe 4 or 5 episodes in, you finally get to fight and meet each other. No, first episode that the Punisher's in, they go balls deep and just like fight each other and like go all in. And as the first episode, you're just like, what the hell, man? It takes off at a full speed. And this is just kind of like a slow gallop in getting you interested.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's hard to hear because when you watch Daredevil and Jessica Jones, and I mean, and I sadly haven't watched Luke Cage yet, but, you know, I was depressed at the end of, like, I would start it, say, in the evening and watch 1 or 2 episodes. And it was like, man, I need to go to bed because I have to go to work, but I really could sit here and just binge. Like, I would stay up longer than I needed to because I was so intrigued by the storyline and the way everything was going and the way it was shot and just all of it as a whole. And so you want to sit and binge the whole thing, and to hear that this one's kind of like, you can watch an episode here and there, and doesn't really keep you motivated to want to binge it and want to like find out what's next. Like, that's kind of sad, but at the same time, like, I mean, I want to see it because, and I still need to, like I said, I need to watch Luke Cage because I'm interested in the Defenders as a whole. And so, yeah, just kind of.
I mean, like I said, Michelle, it's like, and maybe I'm giving it a bad rap, but it's like, I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, Bobby, but it's like, I mean, it's good and it's entertaining, but like in the grand scheme of things, when I compare it to like Luke Cage, like, I thought Luke Cage was absolutely beautifully shot. The tone was absolutely amazing. The music they set on the background for a lot of this show was just like, it played really, it felt like Harlem. It felt like New York. And I mean, I was talking to my cousin about it the other day, and he really felt that way about it too. He's like, it was really like kind of old school Harlem. And he's like, Harlem's not necessarily like that anymore. And he lives in New York. He's like, but it really reaches you on an aspect of like connecting you with the city and giving the city a personality.
Right.
This one, it doesn't necessarily do that. Like, and you don't really find that. And it's, you know, kind of forcing this other story of like his parents and like what happened to his parents on you, and, you know, trying to force this connection with, you know, all these other, it's just, I don't know, it doesn't feel fluid and as organic as some of the other shows where it's just like kind of like it's happening. Like of Daredevil, the season one, obviously the main catalyst was the Kingpin. And then the second one, we have Punisher as an attention grabber, Kingpin as an attention grabber. And then they introduced the Hand on top of that and Elektra. Like, they put so much into season two. And then Luke Cage, you know, they introduced some more bad guys in regards to this, you know, Cottonmouth. And then I can't remember the woman's name, but she's in there and she plays this really big catalyst. And then Jessica Jones, the Purple Man, like these, you know, iconic villains, and you're just like, whoa, man, this is so crazy. And you're so into it. And then with this, it's just kind of like, yeah, all right, you know, the Hand, and, you know, not really sure what's going on yet. And it's getting interesting and it's getting better. It's just, I wish it was as good and I liked it as much as the other ones. Let's just say that.
It's just not special. And that's, I think, what it boils down to.
Yeah.
It's like I could have seen what I'm seeing right now from the show on Fox or ABC, or it doesn't feel like it's a Netflix Marvel series in the sense that has its own identity. Instead of it feels very reality grounded, but I think that's probably more or less the mistake of the show. It lends itself to its mysticism, and instead of leaning into it, it seems like it pulled away from it, and I think that's probably to its detriment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. Yeah, so I mean, I would still recommend to anybody that's the other Marvel series for Netflix that, you know, watch it, because you want to have that feeling for the Defenders and kind of already know what this person's about, because we are learning about him, but I read a headline about this review and I didn't understand what they meant until I started watching it, and it's like, why Marvel's Iron Fist is kind of a myth, and it's because maybe Marvel doesn't necessarily understand the character. And I didn't get that, and I'm like, well, how could Marvel not really understand the character? This is a Marvel character. Well, you know, it kind of fits once you see that like that and you watch the show. It's like, yeah, it's kind of like so all over the place. It doesn't really feel like they know which way they want to go with it. So it's like they don't have that direction on really what they want to path it. Like, it's just this, it just doesn't quite feel like a Marvel series. Like Bobby said, that's just what it is. It's missing something.
Yeah, because I still need to watch Daredevil season 2. That's the one season I haven't watched yet. I jumped ahead and already watched Luke Cage. What's that?
You're currently watching it.
I am. I've started it. And what I was going to say, like, first I was going to say, you know, I'd already seen all that kind of, what all the critics out there are saying about Iron Fist, and it's made me go, well, now I don't feel like a pressure to, man, I got to watch Daredevil season 2 right now so I can watch Iron Fist. Like, now I'm like, I'll take my time. I'm going back to taking my time because I'm just like, now I have, like, I'm in the same boat as you guys. I'm looking forward to the Defenders. I want to watch all this. So I'm going to watch Iron Fist just because I feel like I almost have to. I hate to say.
No, yeah.
But I can't say I have a strong desire right now. And to be honest, and I know what you guys will probably say, and don't get me wrong, I'm going to finish it. But, you know, I'm kind of in the same boat with Daredevil season 2 right now. Because I loved that first season of Daredevil. It was pretty amazing. And I got to say, I watched that first episode of season 2, and I was like, man, this feels so different. Like, this does not feel like the show I watched before. And I don't know, like, immediately I was like, I don't have a strong drive to, like, watch the next episode. I mean, I'm going to. And I like Daredevil. I'm going to finish it. But I'm going to fully admit, I'm kind of like, man, that first episode, like, is the whole season like this? Because this doesn't feel like the same thing.
Like, does it feel darker?
No,
like,
I wouldn't say darker. There's something about the tone of it. I don't know. I just hate to say the feel. No, it's not that. It's like even the way it looks, the way it's shot, it looks different to me than that first season. Just again, I've only watched the first episode.
You really need to keep watching that show. Like, I really wish I could.
That's why I just said I know what you guys are going to say, and that's what you guys are saying to me. So I know, like, I'm going to watch it. But I'm being honest. Like, after that first episode, I was just kind of like. So Anyway,
I feel bad because
David,
there's
you
really
really
nothing.
need to keep watching the season.
Yeah.
yes.
I'm just gonna say
There's,
that.
there's,
David,
there's literally just nothing else we can
David,
tell
should
you.
I
other
watch
than
watching.
You just need to keep watching.
Just keep watching.
Should I keep watching?
Just keep
Just
watching.
keep watching,
Just keep watching
David.
it.
Just keep
Have-
watching.
Okay.
Have faith and trust, and just keep watching it. That's all we can tell you at this point.
I just think you should keep watching it, and just probably keep watching it.
If you guys say so,
yeah.
then fine. I'll do it.
Daredevil.
I think the consensus. I'm pretty sure that the consensus is that you should keep watching.
All right.
Well, there's this other thing you could try, and he can just
What's
keep
that?
watching it.
Oh, there we go.
There we
Keep
go.
watching.
There it is.
I did finish The Crown, by the way. I know that was been out for a little while, and like I kind of walked my way through that season.
Yeah. I took my time.
But I loved it. I would say The Crown might be. I don't know. I'd have to sit here and think of all the Netflix seasons shows I've watched, but Crown was. It was. I don't know. It was just right up my alley. I would totally expect that it's not for everybody. I'm sure lots of people I would not bother recommending it to because they probably would have no interest in a show like that. But I kind of loved it. So that's all I'll say about The Crown. If you haven't seen it, it's a good show.
It's good. It's done well. And I said that when I first reviewed it. Like I was like, it's just done. The production level is just done really well.
I mean,
just
it's
writing, everything.
I think it's. I mean, my understanding. I believe it's the most expensive Netflix show so far.
I think so.
Oh wow, really?
I thought that went to the Get Down.
Did it?
Yeah,
it's-
because of like
The Crown ain't
over
cheap.
budgeting and all the other stuff, and they haven't even started. Or the second season starts soon, but there was issues with pay and. Yeah, from what I understand, I think it's the Get Down.
Yeah, I think I had read that about The Crown, so they're probably close to each other. Who knows?
It must be. But yeah, The Crown is
But The Crown's, I'm sure, not cheap
no.
to produce. But anyway,
is that series? I mean, series is that? Is that a series or is that a one and done kind of show?
it sounds like a season 2 is on the way from
Yeah.
what I have read.
They've ordered a season 2. They've got somewhat of an idea where they're going to take the storyline at this point.
Because I've seen casting news about JFK now probably
Mm-hmm.
appearing in that second season, and Michael C. Hall apparently playing JFK,
Yeah.
which would be interesting.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either until I finished the first season of The Crown, and then
Yeah.
I kind of went out there trying to search. I was trying to find very blatant articles going, a second season has been greenlit, and honestly, I couldn't find one, but I could find stuff like that, like, hey, Michael C. Hall has been cast for season 2. I'm like, okay, well, I guess they're making it, but I could not find an article that said, yep, they ordered a second season. I'm like, well, I hope they did because it was great. I loved it. Moving on, let's talk some news, Bobby. You got any news for us this week?
Yeah,
Well, let's do it.
I got a little bit of news for us.
Um,
Let's start off with some DC Corner news.
What?
And
That's my favorite kind of
yeah,
news.
I know you do love the DC news.
Oh man, I do
It
love some
gets
good
you-
DVC Warner Brothers news.
your heart just skipped a beat, didn't it?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Doesn't get any better
Well,
than that.
Look, I'll start off with some of the Batman stuff because actually I wasn't really going to bring it up, but there's not much to say other than the fact that they had officially signed Matt Reeves. Matt Reeves.
Yeah, Matt Reeves.
No.
Yes,
Matt
right.
Reeves. Yeah. I don't know for some reason.
We do know what
the
we're talking
Reeves-
about here.
Yeah, the name Reeves wasn't sticking, but he is officially signed to do the Batman, and I think the word is coming out that that means the movie itself will be delayed because they're probably going to do a page one rewrite on it, and so there's no guarantee that Joe Manganiello will be in as Deathstroke or any of the things that we had been hearing about it. It looks like they're just kind of going to start from scratch, which makes sense because if Matt Reeves is on, he may have some sort of different input and intake on what the movie's going to be about, since before it was Ben Affleck that was going to be directing and he had been working with Jeff Johns on the script and everything else. So it's a new director. He has his thoughts and input. So it makes sense that they're going to redo it. And so that makes sense that the movie itself will be delayed. And where we go from there, who knows? But I guess that's essentially the latest point in the Batman saga that keeps going on and on.
Oh my god. I mean, come on, I can't be the only one getting burnt out on hearing all the changes, all the rumors, all
Yeah.
the
You're not.
problems and
No.
stuff like that. It's just getting to the point where it's like, you know what? I'm losing even interest in the movie, like in a whole. Like I just don't care. Like I just like, okay, there's just one more thing, one more little piece of the puzzle that falls into what is the drama that is over at Warner Brothers when it comes to them handling their properties. They just don't know what to do. And I think that's because I personally think that they just have too many hands going in everything all at once and trying to make all these adjustments and like, oh, we should do this, we should do this, we should do this, we should do this, when instead they should just probably just set up DC to be their own thing, like Marvel is, and just kind of like make a comic book movie, then make it good. Make it so that it's just like, instead of just trying to adjust and pull all these things and people arguing and bickering and changes and rewrites and, you know, director change. It's just, I'm not even a part of it per se, and I'm exhausted by it. It's just like, wow. Like I can't imagine what they deal with, and they come in and they have like 50 different emails dealing with like personalities and issues and all that other bullshit.
You know, for as critical as I've been lately about Warner Brothers, DC, news, movies, everything going on, I'll admit when it comes to this doesn't really bother me. Like, this doesn't seem like that big of a deal, to be honest. Like, I kind of like the idea that they're going to just start from scratch and, you know, write a new script. And when I do hear that, oh, this script is now going to get a rewrite from this guy now, and now it's going to get turned over to this guy to do another rewrite, like that would concern me more. I do like actually the sound of, you know what, we're going to start from scratch, do something new. And yeah, it's going to take longer because he's, you know, caught up with the next Planet of the Apes film, you know, for a little bit, and he won't really be able to start pre-production for a few months. And, you know, I'd rather get a good The Batman than, you know, them rush something. So yeah, this is fine. This is the least of my concerns so far when it comes to what's going on over there.
Right, but at the same time, like what I think Yash is saying, he's like, okay, like, fine. But if we keep hearing additional news after this, after like we're gonna start from scratch, like if it's like a month from now or weeks from now at this point, like if there's like another news, like oh we're doing this now, oh we're doing this, and it's like okay, I can't do it. Like I'm officially burnt out.
I agree. Yeah, you know,
changes.
If the one thing that would probably kill me completely is be like, hey, if we had to suddenly like, yeah, we're gonna recast Batman, and you know, like we've heard those rumors about how Ben Affleck's not happy as Batman anymore, like. If that were to go down and it was still going to be like, well, we're going to keep this universe going on, but I'm like, no, I'm good now. I don't even know if I'm going to watch these movies.
Yeah, I'd be like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Or I'm out.
And I'm not even saying that as like, oh my God, I think he's the greatest Batman ever. That's not what I mean.
No,
I just mean like, let's just try to make this right, what we have going on here. Let's not do a recasting thing or kill off Bruce Wayne and have a different guy be Batman. Like, no, I'm good.
Consistency is key here at this point, in a way. At least as far as casting goes, I think.
But anyway.
Yeah.
Bobby, anything
else? Yeah, because like I said, that wasn't even something I was going to talk about. I just sort of just on the moment, spur of the moment, decided to mention it. But the actual DC news I really wanted to talk about and I'm looking forward to is two things that involve Henry Cavill. The first is that Henry Cavill obviously plays Superman in the DCEU. He has been cast for a part in Mission Impossible 6. Yes. And I mean, we've talked on here before about the Mission Impossible series, and that's one of my favorite series so far, especially in the later years of the series. I think since maybe Mission Impossible, I want to say maybe 3 or 4. And it's been, I think I started maybe with the one with J.J. Abrams directed. I forget which one that one was. I want to say it was 3. But since then, they've been really good and consistently trying to top themselves in a way that is still fun and sort of not going completely over the top. So hearing Henry Cavill in this is exciting for me because I haven't seen him in a lot of different things. But what I've seen him in, I've enjoyed. And hearing him get added to the cast is awesome. And from what I hear, there's some other people from past movies that might be making appearances in this one as well. So it does start shooting on April 10th, and it comes out in theaters July 27, 2018. So looking forward to that.
I was super excited to hear
Hell
that news.
yeah.
That news made my day. Like I woke up the other morning and like Bobby had sent this message to all of us saying this wonderful news, and then like I'm laying in bed and I'm looking at my text. And I'm like, oh, my day just started off right. Thank you, Lord. Like I was like, that is music to my ears. I was so happy. Oh, so happy. So
Agreed.
very
I
happy.
like Cavill, and like Bobby said, is with him being in the Man Gone Uncle, which I thought was underrated, and nobody. I don't know why it didn't get as better reception as it did, because I thought the
Right?
movie was great.
I love that
It
film.
was so much fun. I'm stoked to see him do another role and do another action role at that. Like I think he's going to kill it. I think he's going to be awesome in this.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, Henry.
I'll just say I agree. I'm all for it.
Sweet.
I got nothing else.
We are all in. All four of us are in. Yay, Henry
right.
Cavill.
Team Henry.
Well, let's see if we can stay on this Team Henry track and go to the next story, which involves Man of Steel 2. And earlier this past week, we got word that Warner Brothers is possibly eyeing one of my favorite directors, working directors today, to direct Man of Steel 2, and that would be none other than Matthew Vaughn. And obviously, if you know at least a little bit of his history, Matthew Vaughn, he directed Kingsman: The Secret Service, and is also doing the sequel. And he did one of my favorite X-Men movies, which was X-Men First Class, which kind of rebooted or kind of just reinvigorated that franchise after kind of ending on a sour note with the X-Men, the third
Brett
one.
Ratner.
Well, yeah, what was that one called?
X-Men.
Funny, I can't remember the name of that one. That's how bad it is. I can't remember the name of that one, other than the fact that it was the third film. But yeah, once that one died, and then Matthew Vaughn came in, and so this guy,
The Last Stand.
There you go. Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, it pretty much was The Last Stand for a while, and then
Yeah.
got a new. So hearing Matthew Vaughn to be a part of this has me cautiously optimistic, because they do go on to say that, hey, we're really in the preliminary stages here, so don't just assume that this is signed, sealed, and delivered yet. But I'm really hoping that it works out, because I think Matthew Vaughn has such a good eye and handle on these types of big movie properties that it seems like DC is moving into a good positive direction if they can make this happen.
Guess that's the big question. If they haven't had the best luck of holding on to directors even after they've been announced.
No.
But this would be amazeballs.
Oh, yeah.
Because first of all, I'm just happy to still hear that a Man of Steel 2 film is going to get made. Like I really, really want a sequel to Man of Steel, and to have him direct it. Fuck.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what villain would you really, really want to see?
Oh yeah, then you're gonna put me on the spot, man.
Well, shit, man. You're talking about how excited you are to see the movie.
I don't know.
can think of a couple.
I don't know. I don't want to speculate or have a preference there. I don't know. Anything. I really enjoyed Man of Steel. I really like Henry Cavill as Superman. So I just want more.
No,
of
I
it.
do too.
And I want more of him by
Amen.
himself.
Praise.
So when I say like, man, I can't wait to see another Man of Steel film, it's just because I want him to have more of an opportunity to like flesh out that character and do things with it, not as a part of the Justice League or a terrible Batman versus Superman movie,
Yeah.
So, but as for a villain, I don't know. Like,
Bobby?
It almost, I'll give you a villain, but it almost doesn't matter to me. It's just the sense of getting to see Superman in his own roles in his own movie again is what excites me about it. And the villain is sort of a side dish that doesn't really matter to me. But if I was to say there is a second villain, a villain for him to go up against, I'd probably say Brainiac. At this point,
That's exactly what I was thinking. That's exactly where I was going with it too. I think Brainiac would be an awesome idea for a villain.
it lends itself to what they've been sort of showing already with Krypton and Jor-El and the Kodaks and everything. So I could see them kind of going that way as a sort of a logical follow up to that. I mean, it would lend itself to maybe some parallels involving Ultron in a sense, but so what? I mean, he's still different enough to where he could still have his own bearing in the DCEU and within Superman's world. So that's who I'd go with.
I like it.
Cool. So, well, let's move out of the DCEU and move over to 20th Century Fox. So, they had a little bit of news this week, and I'm curious as to what you guys think. They mentioned that this week that they will be remaking The Fly, and I don't know about you guys, but I the only Fly I've actually ever seen from start to finish is the one with Cronenberg in his version. So that's Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that movie. I used to watch that movie constantly back in the day. So yeah, it's weird. A lot of times we'll come through and hear these stories of they're remaking this, they're redoing that, they're rebooting this, they're doing that. And you just roll your eyes at a lot of these. But yet when I heard about this one, I was like, okay, it's been a while since The Last Fly, and I could see, and this is a series that has been remade more than once, so I could see that it's time to roll around and give us a new version of this, especially with updated special effects and everything else. So I'm not mad at this reboot. So what are you guys thinking right now?
I will say I just don't care. Yeah, I guess I'm going to fall into that camp like you just mentioned that just rolls their eyes at this. Like, and not to say like I have any problems with The Fly or anything. Like you said, the only one I've ever seen is that Cronenberg The Fly from '86, and sure it's good, but I don't know. I don't need this in my life. I guess is the way to put it. Like I have no desire to see it retold or anything, and I just don't think there's an audience for it. Like, I don't see a movie like this making any money. I just don't. And yeah, no, I don't see audiences, a younger generation, like kind of wanting to see this. I mean, I guess it all depends on what the take is going to be this time. Like, is it going to be a different take on things? And, sure, maybe a trailer will come out. I'll be like, you know what? That is actually kind of interesting. Maybe I will check that out. But as it stands, just knowing that, hey, a new movie of The Fly is being made, like, no, I'm good. No, thanks.
I'm indifferent. Like, I'm just kind of like, I don't really care about the idea of the story. I don't know. I just, I'm good. Whatever.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, when Bobby sent this out, I was just like, oh, kind of cool. That's kind of a cool idea. I could be on board for something like that. And it's not necessarily something that I'm pining for, but like in the grand scheme of things, when we're getting remakes and reboots and all this other stuff, I can see this one being, okay, like a good idea, in the sense of that. I don't know if, necessarily people are asking for it, but do we really ask for reboots of any other crap that we've gotten? Like, I mean, not to jump ahead, and I know you're going to probably do this, Bobby, but it's like, when you sent out the news about maybe there being a reboot or a retelling of, not a reboot, but a different telling of the
Matrix.
Matrix, thank you. The Matrix thing, and then it's like the rumors that it's going to be based off of a young Morpheus. Well, it's like, that's not even 20 years old yet, and they're already just like, oh, well, we need to get, just take some of the same property that they know was a huge success for them and throw it back out there on top of the audience. Like, are we really asking for a Morpheus background? Do we really need to see a Morpheus background? See, I'm more indifferent about like not really caring about that than I am caring about seeing like another telling of The Fly. Like, I'm like, okay, well, cool. Let's check out The Fly and see what that has to do. What kind of story that's going to be about. And do that again, even though I kind of know the premise of that, but I know the ending, and I don't know. It's just like I'm indifferent. Like, I can go either way, but I can see why they would do it, and it's just like, okay, cool. Sounds like a good idea.
Well, since you set it up, you might as well knock it down. And let's give our thoughts on this idea of the Matrix. And earlier this week, there was just word essentially saying that there was talk of being a reboot or a remake of the Matrix. And then later, Zach Penn came out and clarified and saying that it's not a reboot, it's not a remake. And then that's, as Yasha mentioned, a little bit more detail detail came out, and the rumor was that it's maybe the movie is centering around a young Morpheus, and the rumored star was Michael B. Jordan for the film. So, yeah, I guess that's where we're at this point, with no other word following yet. But if this is the case, and let's say that this is a new Matrix movie that's centering around a young Morpheus, would you want to see this, or is it still something that you just wish they wouldn't touch at all? I'll go with you, David, since you haven't really spoke on it yet.
I would say that I would not be against a sequel to The Matrix. I'm not interested in a young Morpheus story. Like, the idea of going like prequel kind of thing doesn't really pique my interest. I would say I would prefer something along the lines of, just completely new characters or something, further into the future. And, but I don't know what they would go for there, because I know, in a sense, not that anybody would care, but I know the Wachowskis like kind of went out of their way, like when they were making those latter two films, like they were making this universe beyond films. They were doing this thing where they were tying it into that video game. They were tying it into this game that was that online game, which I think they basically looked at as it served as the sequel, the continuing story of those movies, is that people would basically play it out online. So, I mean, I guess some could try to argue, well, you could make a sequel because, like you would be ignoring whatever happened there, but who gives a shit about that? Like, I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking out loud, but I don't know. I'm not interested in the whole prequel idea. A young Morpheus, I don't really want to see that. I mean, I like the idea of a sequel and having like a new director come into this universe and not having the Wachowskis basically involved, and just basically maybe doing something really cool with that franchise, since I loved the first Matrix film, and there's a part of me that actually did enjoy the other two films just because I kind of like that universe and everything, but I fully admit that they're not good movies. It's just that's one of those situations where it's like I admit they're not good, but I still kind of like them anyway, but I would love for somebody else to kind of bring this franchise back to something awesome. But yeah, the idea of going back and doing a prequel, no, I wish that weren't the direction they were going, to answer your question, if that answers it.
It does answer it. And now I'll turn to Michelle. What are your thoughts?
I'm actually kind of mixed on this one, because I love the first film. Like, that first film, I remember seeing that film and it just blew me away. And it was just one of those movies, like I remember seeing it in the theater and being like, oh my God, I need to watch this again. Like I think I went the next day and watched it again with another group, a totally different group of friends. I was like, okay, we're this is what's happening. And they were like, why are we watching? I'm like, just watch the movie. You're going to love it. It's amazing. And yeah, I mean, it was just, that first film was so good. And yeah, the second films they're bad films, but I am with David where it's like, I like seeing that world that's created, like to see the progression of the storyline kind of go through, but they're not good films. And I don't know, part of me is like, oh, I really don't have a major interest in young Morpheus or a prequel. I don't know. I mean, I feel like if they were to do a remake of this, just pull new characters, like pull them and have them like either in the future, or even if they want to keep it with the same timeline that the first films are on, like maybe they're just on a different aspect of the situation. I don't know. It just, I could see them doing this and I'm okay with it, but I'm also kind of not okay with it. Because I'm like, they can make it worse, I think is my fear. Like they could just drag it down even more than where it already ended. Because those last two films, everybody was really not happy with, and for good reasons. And so I don't know. Like part of me is kind of like, oh, let's just let lying dogs lie and let it be. But the other part of me is kind of like, it would be nice if they did it well. It would be cool. So I feel like there's just, I don't know. It could go either way for me.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to be on the same page as everyone else. It's just when the word first hit, I was like, why? We definitely don't need it. I mean, the originals still hold up. And yeah, like David said, those second two movies aren't great movies, but they are what we have. And they still, in terms of their visual look and the story that they were trying to tell, still seemed like it's fine for what it is. So why revisit it? And then they said, okay, well, it's a young Morpheus story. And then I was like, well, I'd almost rather them do a reboot because I care less about seeing a young Morpheus story than seeing it redone completely from the beginning, from scratch. So I don't know why or who this is supposed to serve, other than the fact that Warner Brothers can make more money off of it. So possibly, potentially, and so it just, to me, just doesn't feel organic. It doesn't feel like it was something that was necessary to be done. And if they had done this maybe a couple years, maybe 3 years after the third Matrix movie, yeah, maybe I'd have been interested at that point in time, but not now. It's just too late.
I will say, now that I think about it, I think it would be cool. I don't know. Did you guys see the Animatrix films?
I never did, no.
It's two of the parts of that series, they were called the Second Renaissance, parts 1 and 2. They basically covered the how this all went down, like the robots taking over and, you know, that whole story.
Oh.
And they were definitely my favorite parts of that Animatrix like series of short films. And I would almost be interested in, like, you know what, take that and make a live action really great version of that story. I mean, I can see the problem there is like, oh, you kind of know where this goes, you know how it ends, like, so maybe it wouldn't be interesting, but I don't know. I think you could still make it interesting. I would dig seeing that. I mean, I like the Animatrix version, so I'm kind of fine with what we have at the same time, but I could see making a good live action version of that story and how this all happened. And maybe that's kind of what they're going with the whole young Morpheus thing. I don't know,
Maybe.
but that's way before him. So
Yeah, because that would be a lot more interesting. And I think I saw something in terms of where they might be going with this one. It just mentioned that there'd be some moments of a past look at him during his time when he was in his relationship with Jada Pinkett Smith's character,
right,
and leading up to him visiting the Oracle and finding out about Neo. But
right.
that's pretty much, I don't know. It doesn't lend itself to me to be a movie, let alone if they're trying to think of a series or sequels out of it. So, yeah, I'm not really into it.
Gotcha.
I thought Yasha was about to say something. Were you about to say something, Yasha?
I mean, it's funny. I think I was just going to chime in and basically repeat everything that you guys had already said, especially David and Michelle. It's just, I remember seeing The Matrix, the original one, 3 times in the theater. Like, I went back 3 times in the theater based off of a recommendation to see the movie, because at first, when I first saw the trailer, I had no interest really in seeing the movie. I was like, oh, whatever. But my friend who doesn't go to the movies actually saw this in the theater. He's like, no, dude, go watch this movie. So I went and watched it, and I watched it 2 more times in the theater, like I think in a week. That's how good it was. And I still, if it was to like show on like HBO, or if they were playing it, and it's just, I would probably put it on in the background, because the first one it was just so creative. It was so damn good. It was brilliantly done. That being said, like, you said, Davis, like, I have a, kind of a hidden, desire to watch the other 2, like, and I'll watch the other 2 and, whatever, and be a fan of it. But yeah, they were just not good movies. They weren't really that great, but it's the world that they're involved in is what you're intrigued by, what you're interested in. I mean, I think everybody here is on the same page when we say The Architect was the biggest fucking disaster of that fucking franchise. When you sit there and have that whole series, just everything stop in the very middle of the movie and have this long drawn out conversation of like, wait, what the hell are you talking about? And it's just like, I don't know, but I'll still watch them. Would I watch a prequel for like a Morpheus? Maybe. It's like, I mean, I might be a little interested in that. Would I like to see the continuation of this story, like with, maybe after the fact, and kind of show, the war starting up again after Neo got this piece or whatever? Yeah, that might be interesting as well. But I think it's more the interest of the story and the world and whatnot, but it's not necessarily something that I'm asking for or pining for. If that makes sense.
Yep, that makes sense to me. Yep. Well, I guess we'll move on to another bad bit of business. Sadly, this week wasn't great for exciting, awesome news. It was great for news that I don't really particularly want to have happen and hope that it doesn't happen. Along those lines, Sony seems to be dead set on making a Venom movie one way or another. And now they've set a date for a Venom movie that's going to supposedly come out October 5th, 2018, which is next summer or next October. So I don't know what they're doing. The word is that it's maybe not supposed to fit into the MCU and with the Spider-Man that we have existing already. So to me, it's like this is just Sony trying to capitalize off that Venom character's name and trying to bring in some more additional funds from just making this movie that I wouldn't say nobody's asking for it, but I think if they want it, they probably want it done in the right way and being able to be as canon in involving Peter Parker, Spider-Man within the MCU that we have now, as opposed to being its own sort of standalone thing in its own world, where it will cause confusion, at least in my eyes, because people will think, where does this fit into everything else? And how do you go about showing Spider-Man if you show Spider-Man? And if you don't show Spider-Man, why are you not showing Spider-Man? It's just no, don't. And that's all I can think of when I think about this story. They just want to do it, and they're going to do it because they can do it. I don't think they should, but it seems like that's the road that they're going down. So, am I alone, Yasha? How are you feeling about this Venom movie?
I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, they're just doing it. I think you said it best. They're just doing it because they can. And that's all there is to it. And that's all there is for this, is they have the property, they have the rights. They're just going to do it regardless of what people say or what they think. And they're going to try and make as much money off of it as they can, because they screwed up the Peter Parker franchise the first go around, which I think speaks to the fact that, that's why they've lent the character. I don't know, man. It's just like you said. It's I'm sorry, I'm all over the place, but it's like when I heard this, I'm just like, okay, like, I mean, I guess, like, and what storyline are you going to go with? Like, the fact that when he's a villain, or the fact when he's trying to be a hero, and how are you going to introduce this character to people? Is anybody going to show any interest in this? I personally don't care, and I think it's a load of crap. And I think they're just trying to make money off money, and I know that's what Hollywood is about at times, but it's just a shame because they're just doing it basically because they can. And that's what it comes down to.
I fully agree. Like what Bobby said, like, honestly, you literally said exactly what I was thinking. I know there's a fan base for Venom. I know there's people that do like that character a lot, but it's just not necessary at all. And they're literally just doing it as a cash grab. Like, it just doesn't follow with what's going on with the vision, the overall vision and storyline, and they're throwing it into the mix just to cause havoc to get money. It's just kind of annoying.
Yeah.
David?
I mean, I don't have anything invested in Spider-Man or Venom, so I first don't care in that sense. And yeah, if you're going to do it, I guess I would prefer them do it correctly and have it be a part of the universe and having it be its own thing. Yeah, I don't know. Just, I guess my overall feeling is, okay. Like, I just kind of hate to say I'm in a I don't care mood about it. Like, because I probably wouldn't see it anyway. I mean, if it were a part of the MCU, that'd be different. But
right,
with it being this, if it's going to be like a standalone, like separate from the Spider-Man that they currently have and are making films for, like, that seems just incredibly odd to me. And I would only hope it didn't make money so they wouldn't do it again. But it probably would.
Sadly.
Well, I mean, okay, since we got that one out of the way, and that's a strike one for Sony, let's see if they can maybe redeem themselves with this next story that's for Sony as well. And this week we got word that they will be doing a sequel for The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and it's called The Girl in the Spider's Web, which will be debuting in theaters October 5th, 2018. Didn't that date sound familiar for some reason? I think I just said that. For what was the other movie I just said was coming out October 5th?
What's
Venom?
Venom.
Did I just say Venom? It's coming out then. So I don't know if they really are planning to have two of their movies come out on the same date. It seems kind of odd to me, but okay. I guess because Sony's just doing its own thing. But the word is that Fede Alvarez, who directed Don't Breathe, will be the director of this film as well. And according to everyone has the know of this story, it's between Natalie Portman and Scarlett Johansson to take on the title role. And it doesn't look like Rooney Mara or David Fincher or anyone else involved in the last movie will be involved in this one. So I guess I'll start it off. I feel like David did about the last story. I kind of don't have a horse in this race. I've never watched any of those movies. So to me, the news is what it is. I don't really have any kind of preference. So I will pass it to someone who has that preference and more of an investment in this series, which would be one David Lott.
What, me?
So how are you feeling about this, buddy?
Yeah, I really just kind of am irritated by it and don't give a fuck. And I'm saying this because, and I mean, I said this back when we reviewed The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo on this podcast many, many moons ago. And I really actually liked that movie, even though I admit it's pretty slow at times. But I don't know, it's just got that David Fincher feel that I dig. And I really, really liked Rooney Mara as a character. And I remember saying when we reviewed it that I liked the idea of seeing her in more films. Basically is almost like a kind of a really odd alternative to a James Bond kind of franchise where you've got this girl kicking ass in her own way and kind of having, just different stories. And I'm like, man, I could see many, many movies with her in this role. And I wish we could have that happen. And then, of course, we never got a sequel to that. They never got the next book. And now this, like, okay, now they are going to make it, but they're going to recast it. Yeah, so now I don't care. Because, like, and it's purely because I enjoyed her in that role so much. And I just want more of that. So it sucks to hear, sure, you're going to get another one, but you're not going to get her. And obviously I knew it wouldn't even be Fincher. I wasn't expecting that. I would be fine with a different director, but I just really, really wanted more to see more of her in that role. So knowing that it's going to be somebody else, I'm like, I'm good. I'm checked out. I have no interest in even seeing it. That's my position here. So I say, fuck it.
Does anybody else have any thoughts? Like, I don't know how close Yasha or Michelle you were to this series of movies, but yeah, Yasha, have you had any thoughts about this news?
I initially wanted to see The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and like it happens. We were just talking about this. If I don't see it the first weekend, then I just don't see it, and it's kind of fallen to the wayside, and I haven't gotten a chance to see it because you try to keep on top of the other movies that you've seen. So I personally am not invested in this at all. I honestly don't care. Like, they can fight over the role as much as they want to. I have no interest in really revisiting it. I haven't taken the time. Like, I haven't been bored enough to be like, oh yeah, I should probably watch this movie. I just haven't gone.
I like that you have to be bored to go try and watch it.
Well, it's because I feel like being bored, because like if you're bored, then it's like you're going to go back and watch something that's a couple of years old, and this movie is a couple of years old at this point. So it's like, oh, I should probably go back and watch this. When it's hard, when Netflix is releasing shows hand over fist almost weekly now as to like that are really good, look like really good content. And then, you have the theater that we're trying to go and be involved in. And yeah, so I mean, as it is, I'm already behind on The Crown. Like, you guys keep talking about how you finished that. And I'm like, I really want to watch it. And every time I get a chance to sit down and watch it, I'm like, oh yeah, I should watch this. And then it's like, well, Iron Fist is on it. Well, not going to do that this weekend.
Yeah. It's also a long film, so
Yeah.
you would have to set aside a good 2 hours and 40 minutes to sit down and watch
yeah,
it.
it's pretty long.
It's a nice
I've also
evening.
heard
It's a
that
nice
it's
evening.
It's an emotional film too. Like it's really hard to get through type of thing.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely got scenes in it that are like, ooh, this is rough. But
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's not that bad, I would say. I don't know how to put that. But I would be curious, like, if we say, you know, this movie gets made and we end up doing it as a featured review, I'd be curious then, Yasha, okay, you know what? I'm going to sit down and rewatch or watch the first film for the first time
Right.
and then immediately go see this new one. And I'd be curious to get your perspective
Yeah,
of,
that
all
would
right,
be
I just
interesting.
watched both of these movies for the first time. Which one do I like more? Do I like both? I don't know. That
Right.
would be kind of cool. But so just hold off until then. And
Yeah.
then watch it.
All right.
Yeah, that's
Sounds
interesting. That
good.
would be an interesting take.
Yeah.
I'm down with that.
Yeah, who cares what I think about it? But yeah, we'll see what Yasha thinks about it. We'll see what Yasha thinks about it when he gets to watch both.
Well, no, like
No, man.
everybody that hasn't seen it. I just meant 'cause
Michelle,
he was-
what do you think about it? The news.
I don't really care for this, but
Did you seen the first movie? You didn't really care for it, or
no, like the first movie is fine. Like, I don't the recasting, starting it up again. Like I feel like too little, too late at this point. Like, meh.
Yeah, they waited. They took their sweet time
Yeah.
trying to decide whether they wanted to release another movie or not, or keep it going.
It's just it's too little, too late for me. I'm like, oh,
at this point, I probably would be
I'm-
more curious to go and now actually watch the Inumi Rapace, like what's the Europeans? What were they? Swedish films? I think.
Yeah, Swedish.
Yeah, I'll probably go and now watch that trilogy, and I've heard great things about them.
so it's supposed to be quite good.
So I've just
It's
never
supposed to
seen
be
them.
very
I
good,
was going to
actually.
watch them, and then once I knew David Fincher was going to make the film he made,
Right.
I was like, you know what? I'm going to hold off because David Fincher is about to make one, and I'd rather just see that fresh, not knowing anything.
Right.
But now that's what I'll probably end up doing. I'll just go and see how those are.
Oh, I'd like to see those actually. I've heard good things.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah.
One last thing that I wanted to mention just briefly, real quick, because we never got a chance to talk about it on the show. And, you know, I don't know if everybody else has any specific thing to say about it, but I am just mostly curious what David has to say about it.
Sweet.
So, buddy,
What's it gonna be?
We got Tron 3 coming.
I knew this
And
was
we
going to
got-
be it.
Jared Leto supposedly starring. So, thoughts?
So what's the latest on this? This is like a reboot,
Not
right?
much,
Or
honestly.
like
Yeah, I
I
mean,
I
there's
think
not-
anything at this point is basically rumor.
Yeah. It's early stuff, early days, really, because it's not like they've locked down Jared Leto or anything. It's just really early talks about him being in it. And I don't even know if there's any real leak of what the story would be about other than just that it would be a sequel.
I mean, I've talked about Tron many, many times on here. I think I've made it pretty clear that I am a fan, and I've been dying to see another movie. Sure, Jared Leto. If you're going to cast somebody new in this, I am all in on that. So that's not an issue. I guess I'm having a hard time getting excited because nothing seems to work out here. The funny thing is I just recently rewatched Tron Legacy like this past week. Well, the situation
serious?
the situation is
Oh, like a heart attack.
I got a much larger TV now, and I'm like, you know what? I want to see on this bad boy. Because say what you will about Tron Legacy, and look, I know I've talked about this movie as a fan, and I fully admit it has problems. I also fully admit I don't give a fuck because I love the way that movie looks so much. What's his name? Kaczynski did visually with that film. I absolutely just could watch it over and over. Sure, like there's some lack of action in it and problems with story, I guess. But it's hey. Yes, I like the movie. If that's a problem, I'm sorry, but it's,
man, it's all you.
yeah, I enjoyed it, and I know a lot of people don't, and whatevs. Like, so I don't know what else to say.
Loyalty, David.
What?
I absolutely love your
Yeah.
blind loyalty
Oh,
when it comes to this.
We all have our things.
I don't know. I liked
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I liked it the second I saw it in the theater. I saw it opening night in a theater with a bunch of people who applauded at the end, by the way. Because I also love that now it is treated like everyone hates it. I'm like, I mean, sure, it's not critically
Really?
like very highly regarded by any stretch of the imagination.
Right.
But there were definitely people that enjoyed this movie.
Fan base loves it. I mean,
So,
yeah, it's
Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't think everyone hated it. I just
Oh, I
think
mean-
most people are probably indifferent to it, if anything. I doubt. It never seemed like it got a lot of hate. Even from the critics, I don't really call them tearing it apart.
I
It
mean,
just seemed like they just,
hate's a
like-
strong word, but I feel like it's one of those movies that now kind of in the, what's the word? The kind of just collective consciousness that now when everyone looks back at it, it seems to be the thing that you joke about. Like, oh, this was obviously a bad movie. Like, for example, the first thing that comes to mind, like Big Bang Theory, there's an episode where it comes up. And one of the things that frustrates me about Big Bang Theory when they like to basically take a position on things as these
Right.
nerds that they are.
Yeah.
And I remember they'll talk about Tron Legacy like obviously it sucks. Like everyone hates this movie, right? And I'm like, no, actually, you're wrong there. Like I actually like that movie. So that's what I mean. I feel like in the collective consciousness,
Right.
people look back at it and like you're saying, Yasha, and again, I fully admit that it's got problems, but I think most people look back at it as that was not a good film. So yeah, I don't know, but I enjoyed the shit out of it. So that's just me. That's my
That's
take.
not a problem. That's not
All
a
right,
problem.
man.
Though. That's,
Respect. I respect it.
It's cool.
That's
Yeah,
that's
no,
all I
that's cool,
got.
man.
I'm ready to get into some Beauty and the Beast now.
What?
Yeah.
Well,
Let's get it.
real quick, we'll talk box office numbers first before we do that. And
Fine.
Beauty and the Beast had quite a good weekend.
yeah, it did.
Beauty and the Beast made 170 million. That's the estimate for the weekend at number one. It is now the record holder for March, beating out Batman vs Superman, which I think was 166. Yes, 166.
Wow.
Of course, this is still estimates. We won't know actuals till like Tuesday, I think.
Right.
So
Would you have ever
Even
guessed
the
that?
estimate though, even the estimate is over $10 million over than what their production
Right.
budget was supposed to be, which
Right.
was 160 million. So they are killing it.
And you know what I didn't realize seeing this? Like, it is now number 7 for all-time openings. And
Yep.
Disney
Really?
has 6 out of those 7 films.
It's
Wow.
Crazy.
crap.
Yep. They just
Until
got
Infinity War. Until Infinity War.
Dude.
So to me, this is funny just because would you have ever imagined 2 years ago if someone said, you've got Batman v Superman coming out, and then the year after you'll have Beauty and the Beast, and
It's just
which
gonna-
one do you think will have the biggest opening? Like, I would have bet the farm the fact that Batman
Easily.
v Superman would have. Yeah, easily.
It wouldn't have been a contest. And most people would not have been like, why are we even talking about this? Like,
Actually,
Yeah.
and I'm going to say this, and this
Well-
is not even going into the review. I actually disagree. Just because I knew the fan base for Beauty and the Beast is so ridiculous, and it obviously would be a kids movie. Like, no, yeah, I would have to say I would have actually fought
Like
against you
Batman
guys.
v Superman, I think. They're
It's not so
hugely
much for
iconic.
kids. I mean, it is, but it's not.
They're comic book characters, of course, they're for kids.
Batman versus Superman is not something I would take a 4-year-old to.
No, but this
No,
is before
but-
you knew of the movie and what it was going
Right.
to be. I'm just saying on paper, when you see these two things that are coming out, those two characters in the same movie, and then you've got Beauty and the Beast, it just seems like on paper that there would be no contest.
Like, to put it in
But-
better context, I feel like, yeah, if you had come to me 5 years ago and said, all right, David, let's say somebody made a Batman vs. Superman movie and somebody made a live action Beauty and the Beast, what's going to be the top grosser? I still feel like that's no contest.
I mean,
like,
without knowing
a
the
movie
tone,
with those two major comic book characters, and then you get to fight against each other. Like, they're going to make a movie of that and a remake of something we've seen already.
and in that context, yes. But that's what I'm saying. Like, even not knowing what Batman versus Superman was, having just seen Man of Steel, and knowing the tone of that film, I would still probably have said Beauty and the Beast. But if you were coming to me looking at it just on paper, far, far back in the past, before any of that was made, I would have said yes, Batman versus Superman then. But even after seeing Man of Steel, I would have been like, no, you know what? Knowing the tone of this, if they were keeping it on par, which is what a lot of them do, I would have said Beauty and the Beast. Again, just because I know how crazy the fan base is, and I know how crazy Disney people are, and they will fork out ridiculous amounts of money for Disney stuff. And again,
That's true.
I mean, Disney is Disney. Like, this is what it is. So yeah, that's where my argument would be.
No, get that. But then, hey, other movies did come out. Kong,
they did?
Kong Skull Island was at number 2 with a little under 29 million. Logan at number 3 with 17.5. Get Out at number 4 with 13.3. And The Shack at number 5 with 6.1.
I love that Get Out is just hanging in. I love it.
Just
Makes me
killing it every
makes me
weekend.
so
Still,
happy. I'm like,
still top 5.
Like, you're
still just doing
good
it.
job. Good on you.
You know,
It's awesome.
I mean, been out for what is it? 4 weeks now,
Yeah,
and they're
4
just
weeks.
like still racking in the dough. Like just like $15 million. Here we go. There's more people going to see it.
And there was another new release this weekend, The Belko Experiment. That came in at number 7. That one's produced by James Gunn. Definitely curious to see that one. I haven't seen
I'm
that.
curious to see it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna try and see it after the show.
Nice.
Nice.
Can I go with you? No, that's a long flight. All right. Well, that's our box office numbers. It is now time to get to what we've been waiting for so long, Michelle. Let's move on to this week's featured review.
My dear Belle, you're so ahead of your time. This is a small village.
You are the most gorgeous thing I've ever seen. Nobody deserves you.
And it's small-minded as well. But small also means safe.
I've come for my father.
He's a thief.
Come into the light. I will escape, I promise.
Look, a girl.
Who said that?
Hello.
You can talk.
Hello, of course. It's all he ever does.
How lovely to make your acquaintance.
Want to see me do a trick? What happens when the last petal falls?
The Nastel remains a beast forever.
And we become antiques. What did you do to it?
Nothing.
Get out of here! Go!
All right, this week's featured review, Beauty and the Beast. This is from director Bill Condon. Previously, what did he direct? The Twilight Saga, Breaking Dawn, both of those films, parts 1 and 2. He also directed Dreamgirls, excuse me. And I also just have to mention one of the films I really enjoyed of his, Gods and Monsters. That's a small film, but I love that movie. And another movie I have to mention because it's one of
Which
my
one?
Gods and Monsters.
Gods and Monsters.
Oh, okay.
Have you guys not seen it?
It was an indie,
No,
limited release.
You kind of cut out a little. That's why.
Yeah, great film. And another movie of his I have to mention that almost no one has seen, but I have to mention it because it's one of my few film credits, and that's Kinsey. He directed that.
Oh.
Which was also very good. Not just because I worked on it. Lots of stars in this film, of course. We have Emma Watson as Belle, Dan Stevens as the Beast. Also in the film, Luke Evans, Josh Gad, Kevin Kline, Ewan McGregor, Ian McKellen, Emma Thompson. Was it Audra McDonald? Stanley Tucci? Many more, but I'll stop there.
There's a lot.
There's a lot. This is, of course, the live-action remake of the animated film that came out in, what, like 89? Am I getting that year
91.
right off? 91.
Yeah.
I was a little too early. Alan Menken and Howard Ashman originally worked on the music for that film. Howard Ashman has since passed. So there were some new songs added to this movie that Alan Menken and Tim Rice wrote. But so yeah, you've got music from the original animated film. You've got some new songs. They did not use any of the music from the Broadway show, if anyone was curious. Though there is a point in the score I think when she is walking into the castle, that they use the theme from Home, which is from the Broadway show. Little fun fact.
Cool. Well, music plays a huge part in this film.
Yes.
Obviously. So.
But yeah, let's get right to this. Of course, we will not be talking about spoilers. Not that there's much in terms of spoilers to even bring up. I think most people have probably seen Beauty and the Beast and know the story. But there are some changes in this movie that weren't covered, I guess you could say, in the original animated film. So if we do decide to talk about those, we'll give plenty of warning if we decide to go down that road. No need to start with the Bowl of Destiny here, Michelle. And to backtrack a little bit for maybe anyone listening to this podcast for the first time
who has no idea.
You decided a while ago, back when this movie was first announced and cast and all that jazz, that you were going to, and please correct me if I get anything wrong here, you were going to completely avoid everything to do with this film, not just not watching a trailer. Like, you avoided any pictures, anything. You have seen nothing. And it sounds like, after talking last weekend, that you pretty much accomplished it. You really saw nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you would get a glimpse of something and then kind of look away, I guess.
Yeah. I stayed away. Once they released the cast and who the cast was for the film, I mean, this is production level. From that point on, I didn't read or look at or see any visuals I completely cut myself off from everything to do with this film and kept myself as in the dark of this film as I possibly could until it came out.
Right.
And I will say it was extremely hard these past few weeks, with the premieres in Europe coming out 2 weeks before it came out here in the States. Like, that was excruciatingly hard because I follow a lot of these actors on Instagram and other social media outlets. And so, like, a lot of them I would just have to kind of keep moving. I'd have to keep moving by really quick. And I mean, I can't lie. There's definitely times where it was like I would see the first top of like Emma Watson's head and I could see her hair was kind of done in a certain way. And I'd be like, oh, no, keep going. No, scroll through that fast, and so I could say I didn't see anything because I didn't look for it. But as soon as I would start to see something that looked kind of questionable, I would go past it as fast as I could and not look at it. So I did the best that I could.
Oh yeah, you can only do so much
in this day and age. I did the best I could.
If you're going to talk about movies and look at film news, it's kind of hard to avoid anything. But I was shocked to, like, when we talked last weekend, that you really seem to have seen nothing.
And it was getting really hard the last few days before this film. Like, really, really hard. Because I was also just getting, like, itchy trigger finger. I'm like, I want to see this film, and I want to know, and I want to see what it looks like. And I'm glad that I didn't, because I knew that so much was going to be CGI, and I didn't want to have a lot of... I didn't want to formulate any thoughts or any kind of positives or negatives before even seeing the film on visual. And so I'm glad I didn't.
All right. Well...
So,
you've now seen Beauty and the Beast.
I've seen Beauty and the Beast.
Michelle, you have the floor.
Yeah.
What did you think?
This is like all about my opinion this week.
It doesn't matter what we think. Nobody gives a fuck what we think. We want to know what you think.
All about me this week. So as you guys know, Beauty and the Beast is my all-time favorite animated film of all time. So, and part of me wants to be really articulate about this and wants to like feed you guys one direction and then send you another direction. But I'm just going to come out and say, I enjoyed this film. I enjoyed it. I cannot say that I loved it, but I enjoyed it. For the most part, I'm very happy with a lot of things. There's a lot of things that I think they did really well. My gripes are weird, but I'll get to that later. I think it was a very large undertaking for this film because, like I said, I know that the fan base for Beauty and the Beast is extremely large, especially within my generation, because when this film came out, I was 10, the original animated film, I mean. And so it was literally aimed at me and my demographic. And so having this reboot so much later, people that are within my age frame have their own kids now. And so, yeah, there's people that are going to see this for themselves and they're seeing it because they want their kids to see it and they want to see it through their kids' eyes. So with Disney doing this, there's a small part of me that was kind of hoping it wasn't going to be a complete scene by scene, almost verbatim remake of the animated feature. Having seen Cinderella and having them really flesh out that film a little bit and give more in depth to those characters and their backstories and their history, and they really kind of made it a little more original. I was actually kind of hoping for that here in a way. I mean, I wanted obviously there to be the same things, but I don't know. I just felt like it was so done beat for beat. Like they verbatim did the entire script. Like it was just crazy. And like what very little was fresh and new was very little and few and far between. And I felt like it could have used a little bit more meat in a way. I'm like, this is live action. You guys can definitely add more to it. That'd be fine. You know, I don't know how the rest of, the fan base felt, but I don't think people were looking for a completely regurgitated shot for shot, word for word remaking. I think they were looking for that plus a little bit more. And I just felt like we didn't really get that. I have to say, I think Emma Watson did a great job as Belle. I think she did it was good. She was beautiful and she's smart and quick and everything that Belle is. Luke Evans, I actually really liked him as Gaston. Like he just looked like Gaston, and he's like kind of slimy, but he's really attractive, but he's such a jerk and he's such an idiot, but he's really, really attractive, which is exactly what Gaston is. That's what he's supposed to be. And so you hate him, but at the same time, you're like, I get why he's the favorite in the town because he's Gaston. And then I think the main actor in this film that really stole it for me was actually Josh Gad as LeFou. He was really good. It was I would have never pictured that in my life until I saw it, and then to just see him up there, like he owned that character and he just did it in such a fresh way. Actually, I feel like he delivered LeFou in a very fresh, well done way. It wasn't literally just the way the animated character was. It was a new way of it about it, and I loved it. I thought every time he was in a scene, he stole the scene in a way. Honestly, like it was really he did a spectacular job, I think. The music production is spectacular. I mean, I can't sing the praises enough of the music. The new songs, for the most part, I enjoyed. There's one song I didn't particularly like, but I can't really even talk about that because it's kind of spoilery. But overall, I was very happy with it. I mean, there's things that they did very well. I think they did Be Our Guest very well. I think they did Gaston exquisitely well. There's kind of a little take that they did on it. It's a little bit different from the animated film where it was like LeFou's really trying to get the bar involved, whereas in the animated, they just jumped in and were happy to do it. And here he's like, come on, guys, help me out here. It was fun to watch that go down the way it went. And, I would be lying if I did not admit that when Emma Thompson starts singing Tale as Old as Time, I definitely teared up and had a tear roll down my cheek during that. That was pretty awesome for me. I was geeking out pretty hard, and I'm glad that it was on the other side of my cheek so David didn't see it on my other side of my face. Yeah, no, I got really sentimental during that scene, and I think they did that very well. Overall, I think the CGI was done really well too. Every time they were in the castle, or even the animation, I thought was pretty good. And I say overall, I'm very happy with the CGI and the way they did everything. Like the village, the field, the castle, the actual characters are great, excluding the Beast. There's moments where I actually really enjoyed the CGI for the Beast, and it's actually as strange as it sounds, I actually preferred the CGI when he was angry and almost vicious. Like the whole scene with him going up against the wolves, it looks like they really spent time and effort and fleshed it out. But every time they tried to give him an emotion that was, I would say, longing or loving or anything more of a positive look. It was hard. It just didn't look quite right to me. But then they would do CGI for him whenever he was showing disgust or anger or just anything else that wasn't not typically a positive emotion. And I feel like they did it really, really well. And I'm like, I don't know. It just felt like maybe it was too challenging to do. I don't know. It just didn't seem like it was done quite right the whole way through the film, I will say. Yeah, no, I think everybody did a really good job acting wise. But yeah, the whole verbatim thing, like just every scene was just said exactly the way it was in the film. And it was just this, I don't know. There was not a lot of new and fresh dialogue to it. And when there was, I liked it. Like it was nice to see different conversation almost happening in the film. I was like, okay, like there's something new. Like I like seeing a few things that are new, like surprise me. But I think that younger audiences will really like this a lot. I think kids will enjoy it. I feel again, I'm not 10 years old anymore, but, it didn't capture my heart the way the animated one did. Which doesn't surprise, I mean, in a way it doesn't surprise me, but I still enjoyed it. I still liked seeing my favorite characters brought to life. It was still exciting for me in a way. So yeah, I really can't talk a lot more. There's other things that kind of are spoilery that I liked and things that are spoilery that I didn't like. So I can't really go too much more in depth on that, but I'm happy with the film. I'm not in love with the film, but I'm happy with it.
All right. Makes sense.
All right. That's my 20-minute review.
You didn't go on that long. No, awesome. I guess, did you really just say, though, like, what did you think of the look of, like, the characters? You know, the clock, the candlestick, all that jazz.
I think for making a candlestick come to life and look more like alive, I think they did a decent. I think it looked good. I think Cogsworth actually was probably the best looking one. I knew that Mrs. Potts was going to be a challenge, and I think that's the one that I kind of go back and forth on. The way they did her face was an interesting approach. The way they decided to go with her face and Chip's face,
right?
Because it just looks like it's painted on, basically,
right.
And part of me is like, okay, well, that's kind of neat. And the other part of me is like, wow, they didn't try at the same time. Like, as weird as it is. You know, like, Audra McDonald plays the wardrobe. Mm-hmm. And they didn't even give her a face. They tried to give her a face in a way by using curtains to create an eyes and a mouth. I don't know. It's bizarre. And at the same time, like, if I think about it, like, do you want these to look cartoonish or do you want these to look like items that are alive? Like, there's a line, and I think they were trying to dance on it as much as they could without making it look silly and ridiculous. So I think for overall, they did a good job of it. Yeah.
Cool. I was just curious about that.
Like I said, without making them look cartoonish, I think they did a good job. And it's very hard to not make them look cartoonish because if you keep adding to it, they get cartoonish. So yeah, but I think they did, like I said, Cogsworth was probably my favorite one to see move. Like, it was just done well. Him as a timepiece was done very well. It's easy to do because he's a clock. He has a face, you know, in two senses of the word. So yeah.
Cool. All right.
That's what I got.
All right. Would you do it again? I mean, this whole experiment, like with...
No.
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 I didn't think so, but I was curious.
It was no. I mean, you know, it's one thing back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s to, you know, even in the 90s to avoid the stuff, but it is darn near impossible this day and age
and stuff.
Let me tell you, it is rough.
Because I even remember you and I saw a different movie, and walking down the hallway at a movie theater, they have, you know, like movie theaters do, huge cardboard cutout display for the movie. And I mean, you walked right by it. I guess you just kind of don't look at it.
I don't.
Because I'm like, how are you not seeing this?
For the-
It's right there.
For the past few months, I've almost not been looking at any cardboard cutouts in
Right.
theaters or movie posters, really, for that matter. Quite honestly, I've really been. I look at the carpet. I look at like where's the bathroom. I look at the numbers for the theaters. Like
Right.
I'm literally avoiding any imagery, and that's what I've been doing for the past weeks, months, for a while now.
Have you gone back and watched the trailers?
No, I should do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should do that. Just curious.
No,
Not that it
I have.
matters,
I
but-
haven't. I also haven't really had a chance. I haven't had time to.
Right.
But, I mean, yeah, I should do that. I haven't even thought about that.
Cool. All right. Well, I'll use the bowl for the rest of us.
Okay.
Those of us that don't matter here.
You know, the bull would have picked me first anyways.
Probably
'cause
would have.
she hates
I should have
me.
tried just to see.
She hates me, so it doesn't really matter.
But I didn't give the bowl the chance. But the bowl is spoken for Bobby now. So, Bobby.
Yeah, my review won't be nearly as eloquent and as thought-provoking as Michelle's was because for me, I guess I have a different take and perspective on it. So I'll speak from that point of view, which is the person that didn't necessarily grow up watching all these Disney classic cartoons. So a lot of it for me is seeing them turn into live action is my first exposure to some of them. And I have seen Beauty and the Beast, the animated version, but I saw it way late. You know, I think I probably saw it for the first time maybe about, I don't know, within the last 5-6 years. So, you know, it's obviously way past the time when it was really in the cultural zeitgeist and everyone was talking about it. But I think if you're coming at it as a person like me who maybe felt like that wasn't something they could connect to as an animated film, having it as a full-blown movie, live action, it helps you tap into what that Disney feel is in a different way and maybe something that can speak to you more on a level that when you see it in live action, it lends itself to the story in a way that it's more something you can kind of hold in your hands, something a little bit more real. And I think that's what Disney is really good at doing, is taking their animated films and making it for either a completely brand new audience that didn't have exposure to the animated films, or trying to give something a little extra for the people who loved it as an animated classic. And I thought the movie worked really well as a live action film, that I enjoyed seeing it. I had fun with it. It was cute and it was nice, and it was like everything that you would think that you're getting in a Disney film when it's animated, when it was first coming out back in the day, in that sense of the feeling that you get from it. And it just leaves you kind of happy when you're seeing this story that you know everything that's going to happen in it, but yet it still leaves you having a good experience after you come out of it. And I thought that's what they did really well. I can't necessarily speak to the differences. I mean, I know what the differences are because, like I said, I have seen the animated film, but I can't speak to them being like, oh, they shouldn't have added that, or, oh, that was a good addition, other than the fact that I like the movie on its own merits as opposed to what you could compare it to with the animated classic. So everything that Michelle said about the things that worked in this film, I agree. I love the music. This classic music, you can't help but to know it, even if you've never seen the original cartoon, the animated film. It's just classic material. And so just hearing the songs and the performances, the wardrobe, everything about it, I just really enjoyed, and I had a fun experience. And I would say, as well as Michelle, the one sort of area I had any issue with was with the Beast and some of the look of him as his facial expressions and the animation and when he was talking. Sometimes it almost seemed like it was out of sync with what he was saying in terms of the way his mouth was moving. But aside from that, you know, on the whole and everything being what it is, I feel like this is another one that is a check mark in the positive box for Disney's conversion from animation to live action. And it just further cements to me the legitimacy of them turning their animated classics into live action films. It makes me look forward to the next one that comes out, which I'm not sure which one that one is.
There's
but,
so many.
There's so many.
Yeah,
It's hard to
there's
say.
so
It's very
many.
odd.
I mean, I'm sure there's an actual one that's lined up for next year, but I don't know what it is at this point. But yeah, there like you said, there are so many. I think I just read earlier this morning that Jon Favreau's Lion King is starting production next month, so that could be possibly the next one. But everything else, yeah, it's just has me looking forward to more of what they're going to do and how they will slightly differentiate and possibly make the same and see what audiences think of them, because I'm on board for them, but I know you guys aren't necessarily on board for the rest that we have coming down the pipeline. And I know I saw something earlier this week about the Mulan movie coming out and it not using any music at all and just being a straight movie. So it's curious to see what people will think in that sense of changing from that, paradigm of having music in these movies and not having any at all. So, like overall, I'm happy with this movie and I'm on board and looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because as far as an animated to live version, yeah, as a whole, I have to say they did a good job. As from animated to a live thing, Disney did a really good job with it. But what's interesting is I was reading some of these reviews, and I know I'm kind of cutting you guys off, but reading some of these reviews, everybody's got these negative reviews for they're calling it really kitschy, and I'm like, well, yeah, it's a kids movie,
duh,
they're like it's just so sappy, and I'm like, yeah,
it's a remake of Beauty and the Beast.
A
What
remake,
did you think it was going to be?
Did you not see the first one?
Exactly.
Did you not see the 91 version?
Everybody's really tearing into that kind of part of it, and I'm like, guys, yeah, it's Beauty and the Beast, guys. At the core of this, it is a love story. It is a love story, and it is her seeing more to another person, than what meets the eye, and it's realizing that there's more to love than just an attractiveness. It's really about loving a person for who the person really is, and it's just funny reading the reviews this morning. I was just like, really, guys? What were you expect? I don't know what people were expecting out of this. I was just expecting more meat to it, maybe with the characters, but I wasn't expecting the story to magically change and not be a sappy, kitschy, love Disney kid animated movie. No, it's hi, hello, welcome to the storybook, and I do mean storybook and fairy tale. Hi.
Yeah, I think my biggest thing is when I saw the critics complaining. They complain about that, but not just that. But I've seen in some of the headlines of their reviews, they'll say it's a movie that's sure to bring in audiences, but was it really necessary? I'm like, well, what movie's necessary? I mean, if you can do it, and it's again, it could bring in a new audience for people who may not have ever seen the original, or
just a different way to experience something we all loved in the first place.
Right.
I love Beauty and the Beast.
That's a really mundane question.
Yeah, you want to sometimes I just want to see it again, but a fresh interpretation of it. That's all this is.
exactly.
So yeah, to say, oh, is it necessary?
Yeah,
we weren't expecting it to open up new questions for us as humans.
No. Right, exactly. This wasn't gonna change the way I view the storyline.
Yeah, this made me rethink love more than I had ever heard before.
Right,
no.
right.
In its entirety.
I will say
they're trying to put a different set of standards on this because it's live action as opposed to animation,
right?
And it's not fair. So
Exactly.
it's just kind of odd.
And I like hearing Bobby's take on this film because he's really only seen the animated one. What you say, just a very tiny handful of times ever, even within the past 5 years. You said so. For you, this is really kind of really fresh. And it's nice to hear that because most everybody has seen it. I mean, I can't even tell you how many times I've seen the film, Jesus.
Right.
But it's just nice to hear that you really kind of got to see this with fresh eyes, Bobby. And I like that you saw it really with fresh eyes for the most part, and you enjoyed it. That makes me feel good. And it makes me know, yep, they did a good job. They made a good film.
All right.
They did. I really do think that they did make a good film.
I will stop putting my 2 cents in. I'm sorry. I was just so excited about this film.
Okay.
I'm just so excited about this film.
I was just going to say before we move on to whoever's next, to answer your question really quick, Bobby, Mulan seems to be slated for next. It's the only one.
Really?
Mulan actually appears to be the only one that actually has a release date, which is November 2nd of 2018.
Right, because they've got, Dumbo is in the pipework somewhere.
Lion King is there
Yeah.
with no release. Dumbo, no release. Aladdin, no release.
Right.
Christopher
Little
Robin.
Mermaid.
Oh, they're doing a Christopher Robin.
I see an Oliver Twist. And I'm pulling this from a Collider article from a week ago.
Wow.
James and the Giant Peach. I remember hearing about that. Cruella.
I will have to say, I'm looking forward to Aladdin.
You know what? That's exactly what I said to Shannon when this was done. I was like, I would really love to see a live action Aladdin.
Right?
I mean, that just sounds like so much fun.
You know who's directing that one, right?
No?
It's, if I'm not mistaken, it's Guy Ritchie.
Yes, it is.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I just laughed because it's like I just immediately went to like all the Guy Ritchie stereotypes for all his films.
No.
And it's just like I'm just imagining Aladdin just cussing his ass off at every corner. It's like, did you steal this? I didn't fucking steal this, all right? You know, it's just like randomly. So,
My head just exploded a little bit.
And yeah, it's got John August attached to write it, which he wrote Big Fish.
Oh.
Yeah. I would agree. Real quick, while we're on the subject, I'll say, like, I fully admitted I'm not really that interested in almost any of these live action remakes. But if there were one, I want to see that. It would be Aladdin. I completely agree with you guys. As also, I wanted to touch on like the whole like Mulan not having music in it. Honestly, for some reason, doesn't really surprise me. Because I guess even though there's definitely songs in Mulan, I don't really think of Mulan as a musical when I think about it. It's not like a Beauty and the Beast, which that is a musical.
That is a musical.
Mulan is like, it's an animated film that's got songs in it because it's a kid's animated movie. But you know, for the most part, it's more just a kind of a drama. I don't know. Anyway. All right.
Back to the Bowl of Destiny.
Hey, back to this review we're doing.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We tangents. We're off.
Yasha, you appear to be next. What do you think of Beauty and the Beast?
I mean, after the first scene, Bonjour, I mean, and they did that whole village singing and they panned out. So it's like you can see the whole thing in the landscape and the sun. I was like, wow. Like I was really blown away. Like I don't know what I was expecting, but for whatever reason, after that very first opening song, I just was like, this is fantastic. I was just blown away. I thought that was really well done. Be Our Guest obviously was really well done. And like Michelle said, Gaston was really well done. I enjoyed the movie immensely. Like, I mean, I saw it when I was like 13 or 14 years old. And it took me back to being a kid when I first saw it. Like, I mean, you really it kind of transports you just to see, it felt like watching it almost for the first time because of the live action and you knew where it was going and where it was headed. And like you said, Michelle, is like everything was almost like word for word taken from the movie. And I still found myself enjoying it. That being said, the one thing that I didn't really enjoy that much was how the Beast looked. And I've thought a lot about this, and it's like I felt like they were trying to make him look like an animal, but with human characteristics mixed very closely in there. Like his face just seemed like they were kind of in limbo in regards to what they wanted to do. Like, do we want to make him look like a monster? Do we want to make him look really soft? And part of one of the best scenes that I thought they did with him was, like you said, Michelle, was the scene where he was going up against the wolves, because they knew exactly what direction they wanted to go. They made him seem as vicious as possible, and this is how they wanted him to look. Aside from that, it felt like they were kind of in limbo. Like, should we make him look more manly, or should we make him look more like a monster? And that was one of the things that I found in the CGI that I just really couldn't grasp or get on board with and think, wow, this was really well done. And this is really cool how they did this. But the characters, Lumiere, Cogsworth, I thought they did a really good job trying to adapt their personalities and how they looked for the movie. I thought they were fantastic. Be Our Guest, like I said, is one of my favorite songs from the original movie, and it didn't disappoint with the display that they put it on. In fact, I even thought to myself, I wouldn't mind seeing this movie in 3D because it felt like some of the shots that were there were really geared for 3D, and it probably would be really beautiful to watch that. It was really well done. I thought it was a lot of fun to watch, and it felt like you were just watching the original, the 91 version, but you were just watching in live action, almost set for set, cut for cut. When it came to certain parts of the film, like you knew exactly where it was going. I did like, well, I don't get into that later because I think that's spoilers, but I enjoyed it. I'll be brief. Like, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a fantastically done film. I thought they really did a good job in adapting it. Some of the changes that they made were minuscule, and I think they did that on purpose because he was like, if he was going to do this movie, he wanted to kind of keep it as close to what everybody loved without making too many changes. And then the changes that we'll talk about in spoilers, I think they were good and nice little additions. So it was interesting. It was fun. It was a really fun movie. I really enjoyed it. It made me feel kind of like a kid again, and it's not even close to my favorite Disney movie.
Well, I guess that means I'm last.
David gets to go.
I get to go.
And I'm curious, because we didn't talk about our opinions. Even though you were excited to hear what my opinion was, I haven't heard what yours is at all. So
No.
I'm also curious to hear
Did I
your
give
opinion.
off a vibe afterwards?
The vibe you gave off was, oh my God, I want to know what Michelle thought of it. Like, I can tell you're really antsy to know what I was thinking about the film. And that's really the only vibe I got off of you, is you were just like, I want to know, but I can't ask her. Like, I could tell it was killing you.
I mean, because here and there, you and I have been talking about some movies after we see them.
Sometimes.
Even though we try to hold off for the
We don't
podcast.
get in depth.
But this time around, I was tempted to be like, you know what, fuck it, I gotta know. But I didn't. I was like, I'm gonna wait and hold it for the show and just to be surprised. So I didn't ask.
But I want to know your take on it. I'm excited to hear that.
I mean, yeah, my backstory is when it comes to Disney feature animated films, I would probably agree with you, Michelle. Beauty and the Beast is my favorite. I don't know if I'd go so far as to say it's my favorite animated film, period. I think purely just because I'd have a hard time comparing a movie like that to like a Pixar movie. Even though they're both animated, I mean, they're just Pixar films, and movies like on this run of Disney animated films are just so different.
Yeah,
So-
I mean the 90s renaissance of Disney animation and then the computer animation. And see, I almost separate the two, honestly.
That's what I mean. They're kind
I do too.
they're two different things.
Right.
But-
yeah, it's hard.
Yeah. But yeah, I would agree. When it comes to Disney feature animated films, Beauty and the Beast, it holds a little special place for some reason with me. I just really like it. I also just think too, like, coming from the perspective of like a former Disney cast member who worked at what was then called Disney MGM Studios for many years, there's something about that line that, like you mentioned, that 90s renaissance of films when it came to Disney animated films, that like they seem even more special, I think, for some of us who worked there. I think you feel an extra attachment to them for some reason, and that's kind of hard to explain. So yeah, like there's just something extra special about them, I think, because we worked there. So yeah, that's my perspective going in. And I will say the few days and hours leading up to finally seeing this, I was actually starting to kind of go into the getting skeptical range of this. Like by the time I think we went in to go see it, I was kind of feeling like, I don't know what I'm going to think of this. Like, I'm not sure. I don't know why. It wasn't based off of any reviews I was reading or anything. I was just starting to feel more skeptical of it. And I had said, my piece about the trailers we had seen, for the most part, I liked the way it looked, but I had said even in the trailers, like, hey, the way they're doing Beast's face, I don't know if I'm buying into that. Like, it looks too animated for me. And I was unsure what I was going to think of the look of all the other characters in the castle, Cogsworth and Lumiere and all of them. Like, because based on stuff I'd seen in trailers, I was kind of like, I don't know. But I will say, in the end, I really, really enjoyed the movie. I say in the end because I will say even during that first opening number, I was a little unsure. And it wasn't anything that Emma Watson was doing wrong. I think it was just like, when you like I talked about interpretations earlier, like when you are so used to one interpretation of a story, it can be difficult to go and see it done differently. So seeing this live action version with Belle walking around in this real village, and I was just like, I don't know. And this is going to sound like a silly complaint. It's not really a complaint, but one thing I was kind of not sure that I was digging at first was just kind of the general overall kind of look of it. It looked almost a little too Disney. Like, you know, like I think maybe I was expecting it to look, and I hate to use the word gritty, but a little more real life.
It was really polished.
Yes, polished is a good way to put it.
It was very polished, especially
Yeah,
the
even
village
the dirt was
scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, and that's.
Yeah.
And again, yeah, I'm the same way. I have the same nitpicky thing, and I'm sorry, I'm totally jumping in.
No.
Review.
So that was my first feeling as I'm watching, and I'm like, it polished is a good way to put it. It looks polished and more than I kind of expected.
It was almost like a park.
Yes,
like I felt like I was
at Walt Disney
looking at a
World.
park.
I was in Fantasyland at the Magic Kingdom, is what it felt like.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, that part of it, I was like, I don't know. But then as the movie progressed and the movie ended, I really dug it. It's funny, I will say one thing that you have a complaint about, Michelle, is actually something that I disagree with you on and actually thought of as a positive. Sure, this movie uses lines from the original animated film, for sure. It does things with certain characters that are shot the same, for sure. But I actually thought it could have been worse. Because they do, you know, use lines here and there, but at the same time, there is things that are handled differently. And I kind of felt like it was nice when they did handle things differently, and I appreciated it. And I feel like it actually did kind of change things up more often than I expected. So maybe that's an expectations thing. I don't know. But I actually liked that. I felt like it didn't so much follow like shot for shot the original animated film. I thought it did kind of like, hey, you know, of course you're going to make fans happy and throw things in there. The beast grin, for example, stuff like that, you know. You don't do things like that in this, and then people are going to be like, oh, what the hell? They didn't do that, and they didn't put this in, like, because that's what they want to see. So yeah, I don't know. I was actually happy with that. I felt like they did do a good amount of changes to it. But again, that might be just an expectations thing. And yeah, in the context of seeing it on screen, I really liked the way all of the characters in the castle looked. I agree with you. I thought Cogsworth probably looked the best. I also really like Ian McKellen's performance of that character.
Yeah.
I thought he was awesome. But yeah, pretty much all of those characters, I liked the way all of it looked. I will disagree, though, that when it came to Be Our Guest, I wasn't a huge fan of that scene. Just because I felt like as an animated scene, it kind of works. You've got all these animated dishes and everything flying around, and in this real life situation, it felt a little like, I don't know, kind of too silly. And I don't know that if there was one thing I would say that, yeah, I know we were talking about that earlier, that, oh, you know, the movie was too silly at times or whatever. Like, and of course we all expected that, but this scene, I don't know, it just didn't work for me.
I think it's because everything else is so, they are trying to base it as as realistically as it could be done. And there's moments, and that what I liked in the Be Our Guest was that there's things that are going wrong, and Lumiere is trying to cover it. Like, he's like, nope, we're just trying to polish it, make it perfect. And that's kind of what I like.
Right.
They were trying to make it real, but it's also very difficult when you have things swinging from chandeliers and magic dust in colors popping. And so, yeah, it does. It's like they tried to make it real, and then at some point during the song, they gave up on that moment. But there was moments at the beginning of the song where Lumiere's, he's trying to cover up when things don't work out well with what he's trying to do, and he's trying to make it a certain production value for Belle. And I liked that part of it, and then they kind of lost sight of that, and then they made it like the animated one, and it was kind of like, well, no, I kind of liked that Lumiere was kind of, you know, going, you know, this is the lipstick on the pig, like,
right.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
Like what they decided to do, the full on like overhead, like what is it, like synchronized swimming looking type shots with the dishes and stuff. It's like, you didn't really have to do
but
that.
I also kind of liked it. It was fun too at the same time. Like,
I get that, but
it was also kind of fun.
So for me, if I had a complaint, that'd be another one for me. Be Our Guest, it was not my favorite scene. I'll put it that way. But yeah, the music, I thought all the performances were great. And yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. When it came to the new music, I really enjoyed, what was that, Evermore, that the Beast sings. There's a song added that Belle sings, which I thought was fine. So for the most part, I thought the music that they added to it was good. I hadn't read, I mean, I guess it was announced a long time ago that they weren't going to be using any of the music from the Broadway show, and I didn't realize that. So I went into the movie wondering, like, hey, are we going to hear Human Again, which is a song from the Broadway show that I really enjoyed. But so I was in the movie thinking, man, are they going to put this in? Because that would be awesome. And they didn't. And it turns out, yeah, I guess that was really not the plan. So I was a little disappointed by that. But at the same time, when it comes to that song, if they had, it wouldn't have worked with kind of how they handled the story here. It would have kind of stuck out like a sore thumb, I think. But yeah, overall, I really dug it. I completely agree. I feel like if one performance stands above the rest, I mean, it's a smaller role, but Josh Gad as LeFou he's pretty awesome in this movie. He's just so much fun to watch, and he's so good.
Yeah,
and
he was. I didn't touch on that, but yeah, he was really good.
He's just so good in this. And yeah, when it comes to the Beast, I still kind of, it didn't really change my opinion based off from the opinion I had from the trailers. I still think, I thought his face could have looked better. I thought it was fine. I mean, but sure, if I want to get nitpicky, I think it did look a little too animated. And I guess in a perfect world with maybe an even bigger budget, I thought it could have looked a little more real, but it didn't.
Right.
Trying to think if there's anything else I've got. I don't know. I feel like I've covered it. I feel like I'm forgetting something though too, so that's why I'm hesitating. I'm like, I thought there was something else I was going to say about this movie, but I guess not. I overall just really liked it. I also, side note, I really liked how they handled the end credits. I like that. I thought the end credits were pretty cool.
They were done really well.
Yeah.
I liked them a lot. I liked the way that they like showed them in human form and in their non-human form.
I thought it was a cool kind of curtain call kind of.
It was really cute. I liked it. Yeah, I liked the curtain call way. Like it was just different. It's not something you see all the time in movies anymore. And I enjoyed that a lot actually.
I was disappointed in the marketing especially on the poster, that they show you all of those people in their real life form.
Yeah, I thought that was a mistake.
Yeah, and
they shouldn't do that. They shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, if you look at the main poster, they're all on there, like Ian McKellen and
I mean, I really haven't looked at it till today, honestly.
Right, I know, since you haven't seen all this stuff.
I mean, I really haven't looked at it until today, and let me pull it up actually, 'cause I'm curious.
So yeah, I remember when I first saw that poster thinking,
no.
yeah, we've seen what they look like for a long time, so that kind of bummed me out.
Yeah. I'm with you, David. Like, I actually thought that was a mistake. I think they should have had all them in their enchanted form, opposed to having them in their human form.
Right.
I think that should have been.
It's weird.
I don't like that.
At the same time, I see, or I guess I understand why they're wanting to bank on the fact that, look, hey, we have cast Ian McKellen and Emma Thompson and all these people in these roles, and we want to be able to use them in marketing. So they did so.
Yeah, real talent.
Yeah, we've got Ewan McGregor and Kevin Kline and Audra McDowell. Like these are are big names. Like there's a lot of big names in this film. Like really, if it's a character, a featured character in this film, it is a big name attached to it. Like, period.
I'm with you. I understand why they did it. I just am not a huge fan as to the fact that
I'm not either. I wish they could have not done that.
Yeah, I'm looking at the poster right now. And I'm going, no, they shouldn't. They literally could have just had the castle and like the rose, and I could go with Belle, even in her gold dress. But they should have had the Beast more as a shadow. They should have had them as their non-human form. No, I don't. Yeah. I feel like they're giving away a lot there.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't like that.
And it's funny, you and I talked about this afterwards. I, too, as I was watching it, could not remember who was playing Lumiere.
Oh, my God.
And for some reason, I just completely forgot that Ewan McGregor was in that movie, because the whole movie, I'm like, I know who all these other people are. Who the hell is that? And so that reveal, I was like, oh, hey, look, Ewan McGregor. That's right. I would not have guessed that.
It was funny because I mean, like I said, the only real information I knew was who was cast and what characters they were playing. And because I have been so out of it for so many months, I had kind of forgotten some of them. But as they came through the film, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Like, it was like, oh yeah, 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 yeah. Except for Lumiere. And the whole time I'm watching it, I'm going, who is this mystery person? And it was killing me. And I'm watching because I'm like, he's doing a really good job. Like, I was very impressed with it because it's hard to go against God, what is his name? I'm just blanking. Warbuck, the gentleman who he was on Law and Order, the guy who played them. Yeah, Warbuck. Yeah, so that's a hard one to follow because he made that character so spectacular in the animated film. And so to watch this, I was like, whoever's doing this is really good. Like, and I was so happy to see it. And I was like, this is really good. And I really can't remember who's playing this role. And it was killing me. And finally, like, I was waiting for that reveal. I can't even tell you. Like, the moment they all start changing back into their human forms, I was like, it's coming. It's coming. Like, I was getting so giddy because I was like, oh my God, I have to know who Lumiere is. And then I see Ewan McGregor, and I was like, oh yeah, like, it was this huge light bulb moment for me in the theater, and I was like, oh my God, and I felt so stupid but so relieved when I finally found out. Oh yeah.
I will say too, this is a nitpicky thing, but I don't know that I really cared for the choice for the narrator for the prologue. And I think that's purely because I just really enjoy the narrator from the animated film, and I enjoy that deep, manly voice that does it. And nothing against choosing to have a woman do this version, but I don't know. I didn't enjoy it as much. That's the only way I have to put that.
Yeah. I mean, basically at this point, what I have left to say about this, and I don't have very much more to say about this film, but it goes into spoiler territory for me, and I think for most of the audience. So I will not say anything additional.
All right, but I think I've covered my thoughts. If I remember anything else, I'll bring it up in spoilers. But I think that's really it. But yeah, sounds like you've got some spoiler stuff you want to talk about, Michelle.
Just a few things.
So, and again, it's not like there's a lot you can spoil with this, but mainly the changes. So if you haven't seen it yet, I would say, wait and see the movie before you hear the rest of this. So yeah, we're going to talk about spoilers for Beauty and the Beast, and we'll just jump right into it. We won't really bother taking a break since we'll be brief about this.
Yeah.
Michelle.
Sorry.
Your spoiler thoughts for Beauty and the Beast.
And so the spoilers really are the additions that they made to the story to kind of try to bulk it up a little bit. I thoroughly enjoyed them giving some more backstory to Maurice and Maurice's situation with Belle and Belle's mother and the history there. I enjoyed kind of learning a little bit more because that's always kind of been one of those weird things in the history of like, for big fans, kind of like, oh, Belle's mother is such a mystery. So to like hear him in his weird way talk about her, and then her kind of like realize like she's exactly like her mother, and so it's like, it was kind of fun to see that, and I enjoyed that. And then this is where I get kind of like pros and cons to this. So I enjoyed the scene when they go to Paris and she's learning about her situation, and I even enjoyed the way that they brought about that situation. What frustrates me is that they have this magical book that they have not mentioned through the entire film until that exact moment. And this magical book that can transport them anywhere they want, anywhere she wants to go, just literally just shows up, and they brought this whole thing in just to give her the story about her mother. So on one side of this, I totally get it. Like, it's so that she can connect the dots with her history and her mother and her storyline. And on the other side, I'm like, what the magical book? What the what? Like, you guys should have thrown that in at some point earlier.
It seems like a big deal.
It seems like it's a big freaking deal. And I think it's cool. Like, I like it. But where the hell did this just... And, like, he has one line about it. He's like, oh, yeah. He's like, this is the parting gift she left me. And I'm like, wait. Hold on a second. It was just
kind of like, isn't this convenient? Kind of.
It's so magically convenient for the story to work out like this. And I was just like, this book should have been mentioned maybe slightly after the narration from the beginning of the movie, or when she left him, or they could have added it into the narration, like with the whole rose. something. The book just magically appears and magically makes this whole thing come together really, really well. I was like, well, isn't this fucking convenient? And I like the book, and I think the idea behind the book is kind of cool. But it just it just happens. Like, well, you haven't mentioned this anywhere else. And maybe they did do a scene with it a little bit, and they got edited out later down the road on the editing floor.
That could be.
And I kind of get it, but at the same time, I'm like, what? A book? What's this? What the magical book? Where'd that? What? Sorry. It just kind of, it threw me, and I was just like, well, I like this, and this is really nifty. Like, it's really handy that it hasn't been mentioned anywhere else. And I'm just like, okay, it's cool, whatever. So yeah, I almost wish that we could have learned more about the book and found out. Like, it just was one of those things. I was like, I feel like this is an interesting, but more meat to the story here that they could have had. And like, I enjoyed the encounter where I love it when she was actually having conversations with Beast. And they were talking, and she was starting to see his personality, and he was kind of opening up a little bit, like when they were outside on walks and stuff. And I enjoyed it. Like, I really liked those kind of things like that. But yeah, it's funny. You said you really enjoyed Evermore, and that was actually the one thing I didn't like.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was not a big fan of Evermore.
Don't like the song?
I think I like the song. I just think it's also kind of cheesy. And I say that, and I know that just a few minutes ago, I was saying the critics were calling it cheesy. It felt kind of forced cheesy in a way. It felt forced a little bit in the film to me in a way. I don't know. I wasn't feeling that scene. They could have just left it with him being sad. And it was like they're expounding upon it so much. And maybe it's just because I'm not used to that level with that character. And I think they're trying to give the depth of his emotions in the film is what they're trying to convey. And I think I'm just not used to, in my mind, with the animation version, the Beast having so much more in that way. I don't know. It's weird. But this, I don't know. I feel weird about the whole scene and the song. I'll just put it that way.
No, I get that. I feel like, too, upon more viewings, things will probably, at least for me, fit in better, too.
Right.
Like, the songs that we don't know, even though I said I did enjoy it, it's hard not to feel like it sticks out like a sore thumb because I don't know it. I'm like, I know all this other music, and now, what is this? Like, this singing, what are we singing right now? I'm like, so it's hard not to, it's hard for it not to feel almost jarring.
Right.
From your experience. But I think, like, as I'm sure watch this movie more times, then I'll be like, okay, it does work for me now. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. I did like the other songs. And yeah, it's funny because I was thinking towards the end of the film, like, oh, yeah, so did they pull from Broadway? Because I'd asked you that because you were more familiar, and I'm not that familiar with the Broadway production.
I was surprised you had never heard the Broadway production.
I haven't. I really haven't. And so that's why I was like, did they use songs from the Broadway production? Because I didn't read anything about this.
Right.
So it's like I knew nothing. That's why I asked you. I was like, oh, and you're like, I don't know. And it was this whole conversation. But I liked what they did. I like the new scores. I think they're really well. What did you think about, and actually this is for all of you guys, I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on kind of the extra stuff they added in, and then also like setting the scene for the prince and having him such a periodic French feeling to it, because I'm curious what you guys thought about that. Like, they're a very period piece for the time frame.
Yeah.
Like, it was thick. Like, it was like, wow. They almost made him like a Marie Antoinette. And I was just kind of curious, like, if you guys had any feelings on that.
I
don't know.
I guess not. I don't know. I didn't dislike it or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was fine.
I thought it was fine, like how they set it up, and it was, very clear the era that they were going for, with the several mentions of a war and everything to that effect, and widows and all that whatnot. But I thought it was fine.
Oh, okay.
I mean, like in terms of the prologue, like,
yeah.
I enjoyed the look of that scene. I liked kind of what they were going for there, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I dug it. I enjoyed it.
Okay. And then, like, what did you guys think? Did you guys have any thoughts on, like, the extra stuff, or am I crazy? Like,
I actually liked it because I thought that they, I had heard before that, like, oh, they're going to be filling in some blanks as to, like, when, certain things to make it a little bit, make a little bit more sense. And I didn't know what they meant by that. But then, with the scene after he had the fight with the wolves, and the kind of do a little bit more is like she's not lifting this guy onto the horse, like that type of thing. It's like,
yeah,
I need you to stand. I need you to help me. And then they kind of explained what happened to her mother, which I thought was a nice touch. I don't really think it needed to be touched on, because it's like, I mean, all right, so she's not there. It's not really that huge of a part of the story. The song, the added song that I felt with the Beast singing, at first, I really didn't care for it. I was just like, oh, I don't, why did they put this in here? I really didn't like it. And Shannon was just, she's like, well, I actually kind of liked it. And she opened up and says this is why I liked it. And she pointed out something, she's like, it more humanizes the Beast, and it shows him in a more human fashion that we're not really used to seeing. And I was just like, wow, that's really insightful. And it kind of changed my opinion of that song. And I was like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. I can see why that would be beneficial to this kind of, we're so used to seeing him almost in this vilified role and just this big bad guy. But when you do this song, it kind of opens it up to show that he's showing emotion and having emotion and caring for this person. So I thought that was it was a nice touch. And, I wouldn't mind seeing it again, if anything, for that song, just to kind of see it with a different feeling. But it was good. It was decent.
Going back to Evermore, I don't know. I like the song. I thought it was a good choice to have one of your two lead characters actually sing something.
Yeah.
And because in the animated film he doesn't. I know on the Broadway, in the Broadway version he does, but it's my understanding, and it's been a while since I've heard some of the music from the Broadway version. The one apparently he sings, I think it's basically kind of the same setup. It's titled "If I Can't Love Her," but there's actually an interview that Alan Menken did with Hollywood Reporter. And I have that up. And yeah, Menken talks about how just having that song in this movie wouldn't necessarily fit, because I guess just the feel of that song, it was set up as an act break. Like basically, you've got that song, then people are going to the bathroom, and it works for that kind of moment, which you don't have in a film. So I guess that's why they chose to write a completely new song. But I liked it. I didn't really. I don't know. I enjoyed the song. I liked it.
I thought it was fine. I just I didn't know why they put it in there. I didn't really look that deep into the meaning of the song, I guess, at that point. And, I was like, okay, well, this isn't that bad. I just felt like it was the pacing off of the story. But then, I looked at it a different light, and I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Bobby, you got any thoughts?
Really, like I said, for me, a lot of it, seeing it is just seeing it from a fresh perspective and new eyes. So I didn't have anything really to speak upon as far as spoilers or anything, at least not from any new sort of insight. A lot of it is just paying attention to what you guys thought and how you felt about any of the changes or the added material. So for me, it was just still just taking it all in. And just liking what I saw into addition to what I have seen from the animated film. So it was more or less hearing your guys' thoughts more so than me having any specific set of thoughts on any spoilers.
I'll say in the end, for me, as much as I enjoyed this, I already touched on this earlier, I guess. I don't have any extra drive now to see future live action versions of animated movies other than Aladdin, like I mentioned. I have not seen Cinderella. I have not seen Jungle Book.
Pete's Dragon.
I haven't seen that. What others? There's been more than that, right? I don't know, but I haven't seen most of any of them.
Right.
And I haven't had a huge desire. But this, like I said, this was a big animated film for me. I really loved this animated movie, so I'm like, well, I have to see this. And plus, it just looked good. So
yeah.
I feel like
I'm happy with it.
What's that, Bobby?
I was just gonna say, I feel like you'll end up seeing them one way or another because you do have kids. So I'd imagine
probably
at some point.
Yeah.
And with that said, I've actually meant to see Jungle Book, and I still want to. Cinderella, I don't know. Maybe I'll see that someday. Maybe I won't.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really kind of indifferent about that one, but
I hear it's actually really good. Too.
I liked it
either.
Yeah, I would not watch it. I don't have any reason to be like, no, I'm never seeing Cinderella. I just kind of like what you guys were saying earlier with, hey, it's been gone a while. I've got other things to watch. Am I ever actually going to watch Cinderella? But like you just said, Bobby, too, with having kids, at some point I might. But Jungle Book, I do want to see.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the future films, I do want to see Aladdin. Mulan, even though I did like Mulan, the animated movie, I don't know. I've really no
I feel like the trailers are really gonna have to sell me on it.
Yeah,
they're really gonna have to sell me because I really enjoyed Mulan, but yeah, I feel like they're really gonna have to sell me on this is gonna be a drama, action, historical thing. Like it's really gonna have to push me.
Do we know that they're going full on like kind of remake? Like we're gonna have the little dragon and everything? Like
I have no idea.
I haven't heard that that's happening. They've not gotten that specific, other than to say that they are looking to cast Asian actors into the roles, as opposed to trying to whitewash it in any sort of way.
Which seems to be the word on the street too with Aladdin, that they are going to cast, Middle Eastern. Sorry,
yes,
I'm brain farting here. Middle Eastern actors in those roles, which is good. Definitely a good choice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, part of me could see like you could make the decision to make a Mulan film that's like very just drama serious, but at the same time, this is a remake of a Disney animated movie, so you probably are going to have those elements. I guess I don't know. I'm curious.
Well, I mean, and that's why in a way, I would say see Cinderella, because they have the mice in there, but they're not done.
You're right,
but they're not done like it's done well, because while they're in a way kind of communicating and you could tell there's thought there, they're not talking. Like you're not hearing, oh, Jack, like it's, I don't know, you would have to see it. And so I think they did that very well with that film, and I could feel like that's how they would do something with certain characters in other future Disney like live actions, because some of them it'll look too animated in a way. And so I could see like the way they did that in Cinderella working on other ways. That makes sense.
And yet Jungle Book is all talking animals,
and then
it
there's
worked
Jungle
out
Book, the whole theory.
fantastically. So yeah.
I know, like as I was saying this, I was thinking that I'm like, please don't point out my inaccuracies here, Bobby. Oh no, wait, yeah, you
I
are.
actually wasn't. No, I wasn't pointing it out to be inaccurate. I was just saying that it actually worked really well in Jungle Book, and I'm sure it might have even been improved by the time they do Lion King. So yeah, it's really hard to see which way they'll go with Mulan, because they've shown examples of ways that it can work.
Right.
It just depends on the way they want to incorporate it and within the tone of what they're trying to go for. To me, it seems like they found their niche, and making it as close to their animated as they can, then they should just continue down that road, as opposed to trying to make some sort of more serious Mulan film. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong on this, but I thought Mulan was one of those movies where someone else is doing it as well, sort of like the same way that you have Andy Serkis's version of Jungle Book and Little Mermaid and stuff like that. So there's always room for the more realistic, quote unquote realistic versions of those from other people to make it, and Disney should probably make their versions of their animated films.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're gonna make a Mulan movie that's a Disney branded movie, make it a Disney movie,
right?
Yeah.
But yeah, you guys got anything else? I guess we've all shared our thoughts on Beauty and the Beast.
I have exacerbated Beauty and the Beast to the nth degree. So.
Finally glad it's over, huh, Michelle?
I mean, like I said, I'm happy with the film. I enjoyed the film. I'm happy now that I can go back and watch trailers, and I can read articles about it and kind of see other sides of things to it now. It's kind of nice. I didn't think about that. So yeah. And yeah, like it's funny because I guess this has been a thing and I didn't realize it until this morning. I guess there's been a lot of talk about LeFou being in love with Gaston.
Oh yeah.
And I guess that's been a thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so this morning, because I can
all
look
these
at
things I forget that you don't know about.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's been a thing. Apparently, it really has thrown certain circles of people, and I realize that I'm talking a lot about this film, but like I guess it really has thrown certain people that LeFou is in love with Gaston and LeFou is gay, and then at the end there's that scene at the end with the other guy, and I guess that really has thrown some people apparently. Mm-hmm. And I mean, if anything, like I was happy that they went that route with it. Like I was watching it and watching LeFou kind of have this weird like thing with Gaston, and Gaston being completely oblivious to it at first, and then after the film kind of goes on, he kind of picks up on it. But it's like it's funny. Like, I liked it. I liked seeing that aspect in the film. I thought it played really well, and I thought they did a really good job of it. And so this morning, I'm reading these things. I'm like, what the? Are you guys kidding me with this? Like, I think it's cool. Like, I liked it. It's I don't know. It's just, one, it's funny to me that this is a thing. That people are in an uproar about it. But two, like, I enjoyed that. I liked that they did that they went that way with the character, and I think it fits really well with the story.
What I didn't realize until though today is, I guess it's been said that that decision is a way of like a dedication to Howard Ashman.
Is it?
Yes.
I did not know that.
I didn't know that either, actually, until, like I just said, today. So I knew about the whole, like, all the drama leading up to this release, and a movie theater in Alabama that chose not to, now we're not going to play it. And
I saw that. I was like, what? Are you serious?
Yeah, yeah, that's, again, I forget, you aren't privy to all this.
I mean, this
on.
morning, I'm going through, and I see this headline, I went, wait, what? And I go back, and I'm like, what the? Are you kidding me with this right now? Like, my head was exploding as I was having my morning coffee. I'm like, I don't understand. What? This is a thing? Like, yeah. So it's funny. I'm so out of the loop.
Yeah, that's a thing.
Apparently, it was a thing.
But yeah, I guess that'll wrap up our thoughts on Beauty and the Beast. Next weekend, I believe we will be reviewing Life. I will say for sure that I will also be seeing Power Rangers, and I'm fully admitting I'm actually excited to see Power Rangers. I have no background with Power Rangers whatsoever. I don't think I have ever seen the show ever. But there's just something about, like, when I see the trailers for it, I'm like, you know what? This looks like it could be fun, like in a, I don't know, kind of way. Just, I don't know. I'm curious about it. So I plan on seeing both movies. I think our featured review will probably be Life, but I know we still have to figure that out. But that's most likely the plan. So look out for that. Oh, go ahead, Bobby.
I was going to say, by the way, speaking of Life, did you guys hear that theory that's out there about Life?
No.
Please enlighten us.
I mean, I don't think that it's spoilerish, so I'll just say it because it's just a theory, a fan theory. But there's theories that that Life is actually a setup for the Venom movie.
What?
That's good.
That is a hell of a stretch. I thought the word alien was going to come out of his mouth.
As soon as you said, have you heard about the theory? And I that's immediately what I went to. And I'm like, what, are you going to connect this to Alien or something?
Right.
Would not have guessed Venom.
No.
What?
Yash is still computing this.
Like what may be going on with the movie, but it's like, that is the last thing I expected you to say.
Mm-hmm.
That is so far from what I was expecting, and I'm like, no.
So Life is a Sony film? I don't think I realized that.
I guess I thought I didn't know until someone thought of that theory, and I was like, it must be a Sony film because
that is a hell of a stretch.
If it's not, then there'd be no reason to come up with that theory.
Exactly.
Wow.
That is reaching. That is so reaching.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
I think interesting is the only way to put that.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep, it is a Sony film. So. So look out for Life. Also, I think I mentioned this on a podcast we released recently that you can always look for future releases to be available on Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern. So if you're curious when new episodes will be released, that is the plan. Look for them at 8 p.m. Eastern on every Monday. With that, I'm David Lott.
I'm Bobby Jackson.
I'm Yasha Wilson.
And I'm Michelle Curry.
Thanks for listening.